All right, now you're live. So welcome to all of you guys to our second part of this journey, a journey that I want to believe we started earlier this year, and we continue to move forward each and every single day. Now, as usual, we always begin our sessions with a word of prayer, and so I'm going to begin with a word of prayer. After that, now we're going to delve into the paper that we're supposed to discuss today and any other matters. Our Father art in heaven, Lord, we thank you so much for today. We thank you so much for your grace. King of Kings, we thank you so much for convening us here online this evening to discuss the conveyancing paper. As we discuss today, may you take over this session. May you lead us and guide us. May you bring whatever we have learned into our remembrance. May you just lead and guide this second part of our revisions. It is in your mighty name that we pray and believe. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So I want to believe that you guys have had a good break. I want to believe that orals was okay. And I want to believe that you guys are, someone is unable to join. I want to believe that if anyone is struggling to join, please just tell them to use their KSL email. If they use the KSL email or any Microsoft email, then they'll be able to join these meetings. You can't join the meetings using your Gmail. It's not possible. Yes. So I want to believe that you guys have had a great break, which I believe was very much needed, considering the fact that orals can come with so much pressure. But I also want to believe that you guys were lucky enough to get good questions during your orals, and that, that anxiety is gone now. Now we look forward. Usually for us, or usually in our meetings, when we reach at this point, what we usually say is, now is the time to forget about orals and to focus on what is ahead. Whatever's happened in orals is something that you can't control. Now let's focus on something that you can control, and that is the future. How are you going to prepare well enough for that exam? For us, really, and I think for me and my group, when we are getting ready to do the exams, one thing that we told ourselves is we are reading as if we don't have that 20 or we don't have that 40. We are reading as if we want to get 100 from the paper that we're going to sit the next time. And I think that really motivated us to focus so much on the exams and to forget about what has already happened. And that really pushed us to really read much. Now, I'm not saying it's a life or death situation, but I think this is a point when you can just do your best to get whatever you can get with whatever is remaining. Could be a 50, could be a 60, could be a 40, whatever it is. But I want to believe that this is the time for you guys to garner all those results that you can get. So let's just forget about orals, and now let's just start focusing on exams as if we don't have orals at all, as if orals didn't happen. Now let's just work. Let's forget about that and move on swiftly. Now, our plan really is to have you guys discuss the 4 C's mainly. However, we'll also be discussing other units, just not as extensive as the 4 C's. The reason as to why we're doing this is because people have always opined that the 4 C's are the hardest. Now, maybe that is true to you, maybe it is not. But because of that fact or myth, for lack of a better word, we'd like to focus on those 4 C's so that you guys are comfortable when these exams come. And what is the other best way to do it? What is the best way to do it, in fact? Now, we believe that through revision, by starting looking at the past papers now, we believe that you guys will be able to prepare enough for the exams that are coming up. Now, the 4 C's are conveyancing, criminal litigation, of course, as we know, commercial transactions and civil litigation. So we are going to focus a lot on those units. We are going to try our best to ensure that we do much on those units. But again, we are going to bring in probate, and we'll have discussions on probate. If time allows, we're also going to have, legal practice here and there, LPM, so that we also ensure that, we help you guys boost your marks in those units. Now, in our discussions, the discussions that we're going to have, they are going to be two-way. So wisdom is going to ooze from two sides. We're going to lead you towards the right answers. But one thing that we want to do is we want the answers to come from you. We are only going to moderate the session and to guide. Again, you know, in our profession, the profession that we are in, there are so many answers. And what they usually say is, so long as you're able to back that particular answer, then it makes sense, then it works. So what we want to do here is we want to get as much ideas as possible. Please, if you have an answer, whatever you've read about, just bring it to our attention. Let's put these things together. Let us all put in the effort and get the best results. So it's not going to be a session where we're the ones telling you the answers, we're the ones giving you the notes, we're the ones telling you what you're supposed to write, we're the ones. Again, law is a learning process. We keep learning each and every single day. And so we just want to learn. We just want to learn together. We want to guide each other. So don't think or don't expect us to just give the answers. The answers are going to come from us. And that's why we're calling them discussions. So we are all going to discuss and come up with the answers. Now, we are going to begin with the conveyancing paper. And to be specific, and I think we also wrote this in the group, we're starting with the 2023 conveyancing paper. So one of you, please, if you have your laptop, you can just project it for us so that maybe those who haven't been able to access it can access it, and so that we are also able to move together and read together. Again, I don't know why other people are not able to join. I'm wondering why, because the session is a free session. So if someone is struggling to join, tell them to just keep trying, and hopefully they do. Now, at this point, I'd like to ask for any questions, any suggestions from anyone who has a question from what I have said. Any questions? Anything that we can improve on from our last sessions, you can just let us know before we move forward, since this is the introductory session. Anyone with any question, anyone with anything to say before we begin? The floor is yours. Please feel free. Anyone with any request? Something that maybe you'd like us to focus on apart from what I have talked about? Please feel free. This is the time to say it so that, again, we see how we can integrate that into the system that we've come up with. Yes, Sambu, go ahead.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Hello, 1 2 1 2. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. I will just, I think it passed me. Which paper we begin with? The 2022 paper or which paper?
He said 2023 conveyancing paper.
23. Okay, okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Said.
Sorry, Sambu. Yeah, the 2023 conveyancing paper, the one for April.
Okay, thank you.
2022, not 3. If someone is misguiding you. I think I wrote 3. I was just looking at our WhatsApp again to see what I wrote. So for criminal litigation, we're planning to discuss the 2023 criminal litigation paper. For conveyancing, we wrote that we're going to do the April 4th, 2022 conveyancing paper.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And I shared the same in the group. So I think that should be accessible. I shared the same in the group. So you can just go to the group and you'll see a PDF which has all the 2022 papers, the ones that were done in April. Actually, this is the paper that we did, and just look for the conveyancing paper. It's somewhere down on there. Any other question?
Thank you. I think there is Maboza who was ahead of me. Maybe Maboza, you can go first.
Okay, I've already gone. Thank you.
Sorry, your hand was still up. So, okay, thank you, Daniela and team. I think we can't thank you more or enough, because I think what this session has done is this session will go a long way to help us, you know, feel like we are in a discussion group. You will recall that we have a crash program, and some of us are actually having challenges with discussion groups because from Monday to Saturday we're in class, so we are left with Sunday. Again, Sunday we have to recharge, so probably Sunday is the only time we can meet as a group if we were to meet physically, to just put our heads together and revise. So I find this initiative to be, I think, the best. It's going to augment our personal discussion groups that we may be in. And my prayer is that you and your team, if we can target to be moving probably at a very fast speed so that we can cover a lot of papers, because I consider these also to be another form of a syllabus that we need to cover. So if within the remaining weekends we can cover, you know, probably each paper every weekend, then we are likely to cover, you know, as many papers as possible backwards. And I think we will feel sufficiently prepared for the exams that are coming. Of course, this does not mean that we are not also putting up other initiatives. We are doing the same. I know you have raised the question of our classmates joining. Yeah, sometimes they will be joining. I've heard some good feedback. So how this session is going to pan out, again, it will be very good for a word to go around, and please expect these numbers to grow in the coming classes, because once someone participates, of course, they will go around and say how this session is valuable. And that's how we were able to join your oral session, because we had information out here that your sessions were quite value adding, and we were able to gain. It prepared us very well for the orals, and we expect to do well. So mine is just to encourage you and your team to feel lucozzated, so that we can carry on this session with a lot of energy as possible. Thank you.
Welcome, Bernard. Thank you so much for that information. I think it's quite important. So guys, please put the word out there. Have your friends join so that we can all put our heads together. Let's just use this platform for our gain. Again, you know, some of the reasons Bernard and everyone else who is here why we do this is because we know what it means. Sometimes we know what it means to go through KSL. You know, we went through it, and sometimes we were just looking for a hand, just someone who has gone through it to come and tell us that, guys, you know what? People can actually do this. This is possible. I know you've heard so much. There are people who want money out there, and they'll tell you all kind of things to scare you off. We just needed someone to come in and hold our hands and tell us that, you know, you can do this. Because sometimes even you read through the notes and you're like, I mean, it's not rocket science. Why do they say that it can't be done? So I want to believe that when you hear from other people who have gone through it telling you that you can do it without all those things, then, you know, you get encouraged. You get to understand that, yeah, you're not running mad, you're not crazy. Whatever you are learning is something that you're understanding, and, you know, you're not understanding your own thing. So guys, it's doable, and that's why we are here. We are here to just share, to just give back, to just walk together with you, to tell you that it is possible, to tell you that we can do it. Guys, you're brilliant people. This can be done, and that's why we're here. Thank you so much, Bernard. I want to believe that we have no other issues. Your friends are still joining. Some are texting me. I think they're having issues with joining. I do not know why, nor do I understand why. But please, if anyone is texting you or asking, let them just keep trying. I think that's the only solution I have for now. Let them just keep trying. So long as they're using their KSL email, I want to believe that they'll be able to join. I don't know why we are having a bit of a problem. Anyway, I think that is it. Bernard, can you see any other hand up?
Yes, I can see one hand from Chatia.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Hello, Mr. Daniel.
Hello, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring to your attention there has been an issue with Teams through the week.
Yeah.
So it might be maybe the same issue is continuing today. So just maybe you can advise them maybe to restart their phones or just try a couple of times, because we've had this issue in our classes for the whole week. Yeah.
All right. Could you write that in the group, please? I'm really trying to multitask.
Yeah. No problem.
Yeah.
Let me do that.
Thank you. We'll really appreciate. And Absalom, thank you so much for for projecting the work. Yes, so I want to believe that we are off and we are beginning our second session. We are beginning our revision sessions, and we're starting with the conveyancing paper. Again, the way I've stated clearly, guys, we are here because we know that we can do it. So long as we go through the notes, so long as we read, this is possible. So let us just portray that fact. Let us just leave that fact that this is possible. When there's a question, let us contribute. Guys, we are not stupid people. We are the fact that now we are here, it means that we are brilliant. We can do this. We are not stupid people. And let us not, take in anything that is different from that. We are brilliant people and we can do it. All of us can do it. We just need to put in the work. So please don't doubt yourself. Don't feel intimidated by anyone. Just raise up your hand. Give us the answer that you think is right. If you're wrong, we are going to correct each other and we are going to just improve ourselves and do better. So please don't be worried about giving the wrong answer. Let us hear what you think. Let us work together. All right. So Absalom, maybe if you could just move to the first question. In the screen, if you could just move to the first question, Absalom. I think it's about Wala. Yeah. So, and I hope all of us are able to see what is being projected. So Wala owns property, title number Nairobi block 2200/2270. He has developed a block of 20 flats of the property, financed through a loan from Hazina Bora Bank. The bank loan is secured through a charge to the title for the property. The property details are as follows. 1, the tenure is leasehold from the government of Kenya for 99 years from 1st January 1980 under the Registered Lands Act, now repealed. Annual land rent is cash 2,000, which is reversible. The size of the property is 0.05 hectares. Copy of certificate of lease and the lease itself have been shown to you. So first thing, please advise Wala on each of the following situations. A, Wala is in default of payment towards offsetting the loan, and consequently Hazina Bora Bank has issued a statutory notice notifying intention to sell the property unless Wala settles the entire loan balance of cash 8 million. In order to frustrate the intended sale of the property by the bank, Wala's strategy is that he will simply refuse to sign any transfer forwarded to him by the bank or its advocates. With reference to statutory provisions and in relation to this matter, advise Wala on 1, the bank's statutory power of sale. Advise them on the bank's statutory power of sale. 2, the conveyancing document and process taken to effect a sale under a statutory power of sale. And 3, whether his strategy to refuse to sign the transfer will work and why it will work. Okay, so yes, so we've read the question. So all we need is the answer. So we've talked about Wala, the property that he has bought is a leasehold property. He has a tenure of 99 years. This is from the government. There's annual land rent that is to be paid. The property is 0.05 hectares. You've seen the certificate of lease. You've seen the lease itself and stuff like that. So, this guy took a loan and he's yet to pay 8 million, and the bank has sent him a notice of intention to sell. So let's advise Wala on the bank's statutory power of sale. Anyone? I think this is something that probably we've gone through. What is the statutory power of sale? And please, when you're giving your answer, be careful so that again you don't answer the second question. Yes, Anne Gisheru.
Good evening. I hope you are well.
Yeah, good evening.
and I hope I'm audible enough. My name is Angie Sherry, and I'd want to attempt. So the bank's statutory power of sale, in this situation, or basically when we have a charge, we have two parties. We have the charger and the chargee, and in this case, the bank is the chargee, right? So the bank's statutory power of sale, comes in as one of the remedies a chargee is entitled to when the charger defaults. And the charger can default by either failing to fulfill a payment that is due under the charge, or fulfilling a covenant that is expressed or implied. But as per the question, our charger Wala had failed to fulfill payments due under the charge. So for the chargee to exercise the power of sale, I won't mention the sections because I'm not so sure the sections as per the Land Act, but on the event that a charger defaults, and he continues to be in default for a period of 1 month, the chargee is supposed to send a notice to the charger, and this notice is supposed to reflect the nature and the extent of default. And if the default is one of failing to fulfill a payment, then the notice should provide the amount that is due and the time frame that it should be complied with, which should be not less than 3 months. And if it's fulfillment of a covenant, it should express the exact way that default can be rectified, and the time frame which should not be less than 2 months. Now, to exercise the statutory power of sale, the chargee will have to give a notice of intention of sale 40 days prior to conducting the sale, and also give a 45-day notice as per the Auctioneers Act. And this notice is supposed to also be effected to other parties, such as the Commission of Lands, if it's a public land, and if the spouse to the charger had consented to the charge taking place, the spouse should as well receive a notice. If there was a co-owner on the charged property, the co-owner should as well receive a notice. And I'm trying to think of another party, and any other person that has the right to utilize the charged property. So the statutory power of sale can be exercised in various ways. It can occur, or it can be effected through a private contract or through public auction. And it's up the before the chargee exercises their power of sale, they're supposed to subject this land to valuation, so that the land cannot be sold at a lesser value. And I'm not so sure about the price, but it shouldn't be below 75% of the market value. And on the event the charged land is sold at a lesser value, the charger can move to court to invalidate the sale. So the land can be sold either whole or part of it, and it can also be sold either on a whole amount or in installments. I think that's all I can remember about the charges statutory power of sale. Thank you.
Welcome on. I think that was very, very clear and very much detailed. So yeah, we're talking about Section 90 of the Land Act. Section 90 of the Land Act. That's why we have the different types of remedies that a chargee has in the event that a loan has not been paid. Now, the statutory power of sale is just one of them. There are other remedies that I want to believe that you guys have also gone through and you know them. Now, thank you for the fact that you've talked about the fact that it is a remedy that a chargee has. But again, apart from that, you have explained that it is a right that cannot just be, it can't just be exercised like that. notices must have been given adequate notices, and you have to have allowed all these notices to run out before you exercise this particular power. Yes. And everything else there, you must have done a valuation. I mean, if you look at the case of David Gitome versus Equity Bank, they were very clear that you have to do a valuation before you exercise your statutory power of sale. And I think that is quite important. I think you could even put that case there just plainly, of course, by not saying so much, so that you're able to get more marks if you want, that is. And I mean, you've talked about other things which I think are also important. Now, I want to believe that the reason as to why probably we have this question as the first question is because as one of the duties of the charge's advocate, it is important that you explain to them the remedies that the chargee has under Section 90 of the Land Act. Now, this includes the statutory power of sale. It is important that you explain to them, when you talk about statutory power, what do you mean? In what instance would it occur? If before the chargee decides to exercise this right, what must happen? What must happen? And I think Anne has elucidated clearly to this. I think she has explained everything. Now, the question is 3 marks. Whatever you are going to decide to add or remove, please ensure that you have what is more important. Now, the question is mostly embedded on the sections. Please, you can talk about Section 90 of the Lands Act. You can throw in David Gitome versus Equity Bank when it comes to valuation, again, at the later stage, after explaining what statutory power of sale means and who has this particular power, and in what instances can it be exercised, and what must have been done for it to actually be exercised. And I want to believe that you all understand what we mean when you talk about statutory power of sale. I want to believe that we all understand what that means. Anyone with a question or an addition, please just carry up your hand. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anne. Anyone with an addition or a question? Anne, your hand is up again, or there's someone else? I don't know. I'm using my phone, so I'm not able to see all the hands.
Yes. I have a question. I just wanted some clarity on something. This is something that was mentioned in class, but I wasn't able to grasp it well. So when it comes to exercising the statutory power of sale, there was something that was mentioned as a reserved price. Could you please expound on the meaning of that?
Okay, thank you. Reserved price. We're going to do that. Before I answer that question, anyone with an addition? Bernard, can you see any other hand up now that you're using?
Yes, I can see a hand here. Whose hand? Nyawira and Odhiambo Stephen. I'll be assisting in that.
Okay, let's have Nyawira, then Odhiambo.
Thank you, and thank you everyone who's logged in. My question is, now when you're defining statutory power of sale and the conditions under which it would be given, are you going to include all the 40 days notice, the 45, the 14, or you just cite Section 90?
Thank you. Now, this is something that happened to most of us during this exam. We ended up saying everything then. After looking at the second question, we realized that we actually have to go through that process again. That's why I kept insisting that let's only answer the question. No. And I want to believe that when you're asked about that question, just explain what it means. Because again, if you look at the second question, which I don't want to talk about, maybe that is where we'll have to talk about the process. The 90 days statutory notice, the 45 days, the 40 days, and everything else. So I want to believe you just explain what it means.
Okay, thank you.
I want to believe that's why it's 3 marks.
We have Stephen hand, then Pius, then Sifundo.
Good evening, Daniel.
Good evening, sir.
Actually, I had the same question as the one that Nyawira has asked, and I think you have answered me. Thank you.
Correct. Nice. Next.
We have Pius.
The question has been answered, Bernard, because passing a paper is it takes strategy. So I would just want Oduor to tell us the marking points where we earn marks, because now at this point you may end up writing things that the marker will just make a comment of seen. And now, how do you earn the 3 marks?
All right. I want to believe that the first thing is from the Act. Again, Pius, I don't have the marking scheme. This is my opinion in relation to this matter. So in that question, they've done as much as possible to reiterate or emphasize on the legal provision. So whatever answer you are giving, where are you getting it from? So section 90, of course, will be of importance. I want to believe that's why you are the first answer will come from. Then,
Is it 90 or 96?
the remedies. Look at
It's section 90.
The remedies are all in section 90. All I said is, I think there's an echo. Yep. Yeah. So what I said is the statutory power of sale is just one of those remedies. Okay. So we start from section 90. Of course, I know section 96 is what now talks about the process, and that's why I said we have to be very careful. Pius, if you look at the second question, then maybe that is where we're going to use 96. But again, that's something that you can consider. Now, apart from that, okay, you can talk about 96 when you say that, yes, it's a power, it's a right that the chargee has, but before the chargee exercises that power, they have to follow a particular process that is in section 96 or thereabout. So you've talked about this, the statutory provision that talks about this statutory power of sale. You've talked about who this power belongs to, the circumstances under which this power can be exercised, and the fact that this power cannot be exercised without following a particular process. I think those are close to 3 or 4 things. Now, if you want to proceed and go ahead the way Anne said it clearly, I mean, she said that before you do this, you have to ensure that you have done a valuation. And in David Gitome versus Equity Bank, it was stated that if you haven't done a valuation and a valuation that is as current as yesterday, then if you go ahead and exercise this power, then there's a problem. You must have done valuation, which must be as recent as yesterday. Akiba Bank versus there's also another case for Akiba Bank in relation to statutory power of sale, but this is where we have a lady who was complaining that her consent had not been given before this property was actually charged by the bank, and it is the husband who had requested for Anil, yes, and Janabel Anil Shah versus Akiba Bank, yes, also in that particular case. Now, you'd just throw this in to, add more meat to your answer, especially now that we're talking about provisions and the fact that the question has really emphasized on provisions, and, probably you can add these authorities just to help you. But one thing I believe you have to do is you have to talk about where does this appear, whose right is it, before you exercise it, what are the processes that have to be followed. I think if you put all that in, then I want to believe that you'll be able to get the 3 marks. Again, Pius, my opinion. Is that okay, Pius?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
All right. Now, Bernard, do we have anyone else? Again, let's try and move quickly. We have so many questions.
Yes, there's no hand done. I think we can move.
So then we move to the second question. The conveyancing documents and process taken to effect a sale under statutory power of sale. So the conveyancing documents are the first limb, and the process taken to effect a sale under statutory. Now, I hope you guys can see why I was emphasizing that we have to be very careful when answering question 1, so that you don't end up as answering question 2 while answering question 1. So let's start with this. What are the conveyancing documents that we need? Anyone? What are the conveyancing documents that we need when we're talking about statutory power of sale? Anyone? Just state them quickly, then we can move on to the next thing. What are the documents? Anyone?
We need the notices.
You can just state them if you can.
The first notice is the rectification notice under section 90. The second notice is the notice of intention to sell under section 96. Then The third notice is the redemption notice. That is under Rule 15D of the Auctioneer's Rules of 1997.
Okay, that's it for you. Yes.
Yes, then of course, because we are going, we can go through two ways. We can go through auction or a normal contract. So if it is a normal contract, then of course now you'll have to give the title, original title. You'll have to do the searches, get consents, just the normal process.
All right, but let's restrict ourselves to the conveyancing documents, just the documents, nothing else. So the notices, of course, you've stated correctly. Then again, when it comes to the title, the bank has the title. So of course, we'll also have the title as a completion document. The bank usually keeps the title when it comes to this. When they charge a property, they're the ones who keep the title. So of course, the title would be there. And I think Pius has also explained that correctly. Anyone wants to add any other documents? Thanks, Pius. Anyone else wants to add any the other documents that are remaining? Anyone? Yes, Rita.
Okay, so there's also a copy of the newspaper advertisement by the auctioneer. Then we also have the memorandum of sale, the certificate of sale, and also the instruction letter to the auctioneer. And also, I think you also need to have evidence of the people that attended the auction. Then the other one would be the PIN and ID of the bank officials. Yeah.
All right, you can add as many as you want, but I think we have a very high number already. Now, sorry guys, someone asked me a question that I think I didn't answer. I think it was Anne. Anne, you asked me about the reserved price. Now, in a public auction, as we all know, the property goes to the highest bidder. The highest bidder is the one who takes it, and probably we usually start with 2 million, 5 million. I don't know whether they start with 1 million, they start with whatever. So after valuation, the price that you get after valuation, 75% of that particular price. So when we are going for the public auction, the reserved price is that 75% of the valuation price, that we should not go down below it. Again, this is a debate that we've had for a long time. There's a section of the Lands Act that talks about 25%, and it's a bit confusing. And I think judges have talked about 25% here and there, but the reserved price is the 75% of the valuation. Why do we have the reserved price? You do realize that in a public auction, if let's say we started from 2 million and valuation states that, or 75% of the valuation states that this property is actually 80 million, then in this public auction, the highest bidder has bid at, let's say, 70 million. This property will end up going at a loss, and the chargeor will end up making a loss of close to 10 million. So to ensure that we protect that particular right, this is what we are saying, that yes, it's public auction, but we shall not go below 75% of the valuation price. In fact, we can even start from there, but we have to ensure that the highest bidder has bought this property at either the reserved price, which is 75% of the valuation amount, or more, but not below. And that's why it's called the reserved price. And is that okay?
Yes, that's okay. Thank you so much.
All right, yeah. So it's just to protect the rights of the chargeor, the person whose property is being sold. Thank you so much for that. Awor, you have a question and answer before we move to the next step?
Yes, thank you. It's a clarification. So when you talk of the value, the price at the valuation price, is it the same as the market price of that land?
So if you look at a valuation report, you will have the open market value and you have the forced value. I think it's FSV, forced sale value. So forced sale value is 75% of the open market value. So you'll have two values, the open market value and the forced sale value. So does that answer your question? Those two valuations will be there. Or
yes.
could, yeah. Okay, if that answers your question, then fine. Now, fine. Now we've talked about the documents. If there's any that is pending, guys, again, I know that you guys will be able to get them. The next limb of the question is the process. Anyone would like to take us through the process real quick? Anyone? Anyone would like to take us through the process, the statutory, how it is done? The process taken to effect a sale or a sale under statutory power of sale. Anyone? Quickly, guys. Yes, Nyawira?
I just wish to try.
Okay, go ahead.
I think you file statutory notice to sale that is within 90 days, and that is under Section 90 of the Land Act. Then after that, you will file a notice to sell that is within 40 days, and that is under Section 96 of the Land Act. And then after that, you will file a notification of sale or redemption notice within 45 days. And that is under Rule 15D of Auctioneers Rules of 20, I don't remember if it was 2015. Then after that, you will file a, if you have to sell the property now, you'll have to dispose the property after expiry of the notice period, but not earlier than 14 days of the first newspaper advertisement. That is 14 days after the expiry of that period. And then, of course, you make the sale to the highest bidder, and that is subject to the provisions of Section 97 of the Land Act. That's what I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Nyawira. Thank you so much for your answer. Now we'll interrogate it and see how we can improve it. But yes, that is a nice trial. Anyone else would like to try? What is the process, guys? Anyone else would like to add to what Nyawira said or bring in a completely different answer? I can't see any hands. Bernard, can you see any?
There's none this side, Daniel. Once
Okay,
it
guys.
comes up, I will shout. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, two
Pius?
hands are up, up, Pius and Barak.
Okay, Pius, then Barak.
Yeah, so just a clarification or a question. You know, she's really given us the outline of the process up to the end. I don't know whether us accounting to the court is also part of the process, or we just end up at making sure that you sell and then I don't know where we should end, Oduor. Should we go all the way until the purchaser is registered as the owner of the land, or should we just end at the sale?
Okay. That is noted. Now, Pius, I think there's a distinction that I'd like us to make first of all. She's talked about a court order and everything, and I have no problem with that. But I'd also like us to differentiate between the statutory power of sale that is done through public auction and what we do after getting a vesting order. I think those two processes are a bit different. Yes, those two procedures are a bit different. The sale by public auction, where we have to get a vesting order or court order so that we're able to undertake the sale. But again, there's the one that is given under Section 96 that you had talked about. And I think also Ayera also explains this extensively in his classes. So I don't know, anyone would like to take us through the public auction that is done by the chargee when exercising the statutory, not the one that is gotten through a vesting order and attachment from the court and everything else. Just the normal one, the other one that doesn't go through the court. Anyone? You said we had who else, Bernard?
We have Barak on this side.
Barak? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Daniel. Just to add to Nyawira's, I have seen, just to be on the side of caution, that practically banks or lawyers tend to issue demand letters prior to statutory notice. I noticed that what we got from our lecturer is to start from statutory notice, but I've seen in practically there is need to first send a demand letter, and I would link it also to Order 3 Rule 2 of the Civil Procedure. That's what I wanted to add. I don't know how it sounds from your end, Daniel.
Okay, Barak, it's okay. I think there's never a problem with that. If someone would like to start from issuing a demand letter, I don't think there's a problem with that. I mean, or if you don't do it also, I don't think there's a problem with that. But yes, you could add it. I don't think there's a problem with that.
Daniel, we have Anne and Sifunjo on this side.
Let's have Sifunjo.
Thank you. Just to kind of react to that, I think there's I did hear a mention of Section 56 with the issue of the issuance of demand, and what I caught was that you do issue this 3 month period demand when, let's say, the repayment date, you had not specified it in the charge instrument. So maybe I stand corrected, but I think the demand would come in such a circumstance. But then again, as you said, it's not fatal not to issue one.
Yeah, and the reason as why I'm saying this, yes, I want to agree with you. The reason as why I'm saying this is if you look at the charges mostly, before we draft these charges, you'll realize that there was a letter of offer between these guys or a facility agreement between these guys that the bank is telling this person that, yes, we're giving you this loan and this is how you're supposed to pay it. And if you don't pay it, then these are our remedies. And the remedies are also under in fact, if you go through our charge, you'll see a place where the charge is specifically talking about Section 90, the remedies of the charge under Section 90. And you have to rather, I don't know, execute that particular page or ascend to that particular page. So by you, signing that particular page, it means that probably if your lawyer hasn't, which is a problem, you know what Section 90 talks about. And one of those rights that the chargee has are the statutory power of sale. So you actually know this. And connecting this with the facility letter and the letter of offer, you know that, if this is when you're supposed to pay the loan, this is when it falls due, it's supposed to be paid quarterly and this and this. So if you want to issue one, well and good. But again, the way you've said, Sifunja, if you want to, if you don't know the exact date you're supposed to pay, then yeah, why not? You can also give it. We don't have any other hands up.
We have Anne, but I hope that has been dispensed unless she has some emergency.
Yes, I wanted to mention the process of sale if we are using a public auction.
Go ahead.
I'm just giving it a shot. I am not sure, but anyway, let me just go ahead. So I think it's Section 98 of the Land Act provides that if the chargee is going to exercise his power of sale through public auction, then the sale has to be advertised publicly just to ensure that the information about this sale reaches masses. And after advertising it, then the next thing is to instruct the auctioneer or an auctioneer who's been licensed under the auctioneer's, I don't know if it's a board or act, by way of an instruction letter. And then there's usually a receipt of a letter of instruction, and the auctioneer shall, in writing, give the owner of the property a redemption notice. And this notice should be given within 45 days. And the owner may redeem the property by payment of the amount set on that letter. So if the charger has not redeemed themselves within that redemption period, then the auctioneer usually places an advertisement for sale in a newspaper, and this advertisement will be on the newspaper for 14 days. And after 14 days, the property will then be sold. And the advertisement is usually very specific in the sense that it should have certain elements. The first element being the date and the time and where the proposed sale will be conducted, and also the conditions of sale, the time at which the property will be viewed, the description of the property being sold, and a disclaimer that the land will be sold as per the reserved price or the reserve price that you've taken us through. And then when the day of the auction comes, the auctioneer is the one who opens the bidding at the reserve price. And then the bidding continues, as it said, 1 million, 2 million, 15 million. And then the property is usually sold to the highest bidder. And then the auctioneer issues a certificate of sale to the purchaser, and the purchaser ought to pay the purchase price to the auctioneer within 14 days, if I am not wrong. And then I think that's it. I can't trace or remember anything past the 14 days. Yeah.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much for that. And I think that adds at least more meat to what you're talking about today. Now, guys, I know that we are beginning at this rate for good reason. So let me just go through the process again. Let me just try and explain this process. So if you have your notebook somewhere, you can write this. This is the process that is followed as per the Act when it comes to public auction, when a charge is exercising the statutory power of sale. Now, the first thing that the charge has to do, they have to give a 90 days statutory notice. That's the first thing. After 30 days that unsaid, after those 30 days without you paying that loan, then the chargee has to give 90 days statutory, and this is well captured in the Act. They have to give a 90 days statutory notice, 90 days. This notice must be addressed to the charger, and if there's a guarantor, also to the guarantor. It must state that default is supposed to be rectified as per this date and to what extent. It must state the period within which the default has to be rectified, the consequences for failure to rectify the default, and the right of the charger or grantor to seek relief from court against action to be taken by the chargee in realizing the charge. So we've said the first thing to do is a 90 days. Now you don't have to put all these contents. It's not a must that you have all these contents in your mind. The first step is the chargee needs to issue a 90-day statutory notice if the charger has not paid their loan within 30 days. This statutory notice needs to contain in it, it's supposed to be addressed to the charger. If there's a guarantor, also to the guarantor. It must state that default is to this extent and should be addressed by this particular date. It must state the period within which the default has to be rectified and the consequences of failure to rectify the default, and the right of the charger or guarantor to seek relief from court against any actions that are to be taken by the chargee as early as possible. The first step is 90 days statutory notice. When is it given? 30 days after default has not been rectified. All right, second step is 40 days notice of intention to sell. 40 days notice of intention to sell. Again, issued by the chargee. If you look at section 96(2) of the Land Act 2012, you will find it. 40 days. Remember the first one was 90 days statutory notice. Second one is 40 days notice of intention to sell. The third notice, 45 days redemption notice. Again, this is given by the auctioneers. 45 days redemption notice. You'll find this in Rule 15D of the auctioneer rules. So 90 days, 40 days, 45 days. The fourth thing is land valuation by a certified valuer. Land valuation by a certified valuer. David Gitome versus Equity Bank, very, very important here when it comes to valuation. In that particular case, statutory power of sale was exercised without doing valuation. The bank decided to use a valuation that was done long ago when the charge was being registered and not a current valuation. When you're exercising this power, the valuation that you use to sell this property to determine the reserved price must be as new as yesterday or as early as yesterday. So you can also find this in section 97(2) of the Land Act 2012. The first thing is 90 days statutory notice. Second thing is 40 days notice of intention to sell. Third thing is 45 days redemption notice. Fourth thing is land valuation. The fifth thing is advertisement of sale by auction. This is also done by the auctioneers. If you look at section 98(2) of the Land Act 2012, you will find it. It is the duty of the chargee to ensure that this is actually done and done adequately. This advertisement is always for 14 days. So this is why we're telling the masses, we're telling the public that on this particular date, we are going to have an auction for this particular property and it will happen in this particular venue. 14 days advertisement that of course has to be done in newspapers with nation or I don't know, circulation, public, but they have to be, very serious newspapers and not just the small. And of course, Kenya Gazette. Then the sixth thing is sale of the property to the highest bidder. Sale must be done 14 days after the first newspaper advertisement of this particular sale. So the sixth thing is sale of the property to the highest bidder. However, sale must happen 14 days after first newspaper advertisement of sale by public auction. So it just borrows from what we've talked about. Number 7 is issuing of a certificate of sale and memorandum of sale. Issuance of certificate of sale and memorandum of sale. So the memorandum of sale is executed by both the purchaser and the auctioneer, and the certificate of sale is issued by the auctioneer to the purchaser. So here the memorandum of sale will act, for example, just like the sale agreement, and the certificate of sale will show that yes, you are the highest bidder and the property has been sold to you. The 8th thing and the last thing is the registration of the transfer by the purchaser. Here we use Form LRA 61. It's Form LRA 61 that is used when property has been sold under sale by public auction. So Form LRA 61 is prepared by the purchaser's advocate and executed by the chargee and the purchaser, and is registered at the Lands Registry by the purchaser's advocate. Now, the reason why I'm emphasizing this is it answers the next question that we're going to talk about. So when it comes to sale by public auction, the form that we're using is Form LRA 61. This form is signed by the chargee and the purchaser, and is registered at the Lands Registry by the purchaser's advocate. Of course, after registration, what do you get? You get a new certificate with the name of the purchaser in it. Any questions? Any questions?
Very, very clear. Very clear.
No hand, very clear.
Okay.
Excuse me, Daniel.
Yes.
Under number 4, you stated a case. Could you kindly repeat the case?
Yes, David Gitome versus Equity Bank.
Thank you.
Yeah, where you're exercising sale by public auction, you have to ensure that the valuation is as current as yesterday. Don't use the valuation that you guys used, I don't know how many years back. Why? Land appreciates. All right. Now, since you don't have a question, the second question is whether his strategy to refuse to sign the transfer will work and why. Any takers? This guy is saying, okay, let them go ahead. Let them sell my property, but I will not sign. I will not sign the transfer. Any takers? Will that work?
I can try.
Go ahead, Banana.
Maybe for me, I will go with your last statement, that the registration under LRF Form 61 does not require the chargeor to sign, and so his or her effort to frustrate the transaction will bear no fruit. Thank you.
All right. Pius?
I had the same answer.
All right. Now you guys will realize that nowadays we have properties under Sectional Properties Act, where there's a company that is giving shares and everyone holds shares. Nowadays you'll realize that when banks are taking your property, and of course it's a flat, and there's a managing company and everything, they will ensure that you sign the transfer of shares before they take your property, before they charge your property and keep it with them. Why? Because it is only that transfer of share that you have to sign by yourself for the shares to be transferred from you to someone else. So they'll ensure that your side is signed before they keep them with them. However, when it comes to the transfer that is used, the formulary that is used for sale does not require the chargeur to sign. It's only the purchaser who is signing together with the chargee. Now, another reason why banks will keep the title deed with them is, of course, we will need the title deed before a new one is issued. Okay, so just to ensure that they don't look for you, or you are saying it is lost, or you are saying someone has traveled with it, or you can't trace it anymore. That is why banks will always ensure that they're the ones who are keeping it. So if things go wrong, if things go south, they have everything they need. All right, I want to believe that answers that question extensively. I want to believe there are no questions.
There are no questions this
I have
side.
a question. I have a question.
Yeah.
So what of the purchase by the chargee? Is it something that you would consider? Does it fall under statutory power of sale?
Now, you do realize that purchase by the chargee must be done differently. The court must have, approved this, and there's a different process. The court will give an order, and it is through that order that the property will actually be sold from, will be moved from, from the chargeur to the chargee. So it's a bit different. The court must make an application to the court. They have to certify to the court that this is the best instance, this is the best procedure to follow in the circumstances. That they have to prove that in court. That is when the court will give an order, the order which they'll go with to the lands registry, that will allow them to transfer this property from the chargeur to themselves. That court order is what they'll use. Pius, maybe if you have an addition, you disagree, again, it's an open forum.
I agree. I just thought that there are just two ways in which the property can be sold.
Yes, there is.
So,
the chargee.
Yes,
the chargee can do it, and
thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pius. Yes, Jackson. Last question, probably, so that we can move to the next one, please.
Good evening, Odur. I hope I'm audible.
Very much.
I didn't get your answer correctly, but I had a different assessment of that question.
Yeah.
So my assessment was in regard with Section 56 of the LRA, which states that the chargee or the chargeable before signing a charge instrument usually consents to the charges remedies under section 90. So my assessment of that question was with regards to that section, such that even though you don't sign that transfer, or you abscond from signing that transfer, because in the charge instrument you already consented to the remedies of the chargee, then I think that strategy by this guy, I think it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And if you could kindly repeat your answer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, that is okay. And I think we also talked about it at the beginning of this discussion. We said that, apart from the fact that you sign the charge, that you agree with whatever it is, there's a particular page that talks about section 90, and you actually have to consent to, this charge, and the fact that you agree that the remedies under section 90 can be applied. So yes, I want to agree that yes, of course, that's also a very good answer to answer the question. However, now I think the transfer is also very important. Now, what we said, Jackson, is that if you look at registration right now, and from LRA 61, I don't know whether there's a bit of a difference because of the fact that this property is under Registration of Lands Act and not Land Registration Act. But what I know is the transfer document that we use when you're talking about sale by public auction does not require this guy to sign. So then to that extent, we don't even need him to sign. So him even refusing to sign will not matter at all. However, you'll realize whether it is RLA or it's LRA, in both instances, the charge has a section where the charger actually consents to the remedies under section 90 of the Land Act applying to that particular transaction. So I want to believe that you can use the two together, or maybe you can separate them. I don't know which is risky or which one is easier. Jackson, does that maybe help?
Yes, it does. Thank you for your guidance.
Okay, and thank you so much for bringing that up. Yeah, I think sometimes those two regimes are a bit of a problem, and so I think it's always safer to just, widen your net. All right, no questions. We'll move to B. Wala informs you that Maria has offered to buy the property for 19 million in cash. Underline that. Wala was not keen on the offer since he felt that the suggested price did not reflect the optimal market value. However, it is your considered opinion that if the property is sold by the bank, it would fetch a price lower than its optimal market value because it will be a forced sale. Again, I hope we understand what that means. Wala now seeks your advice on 1, your explanation of the concept of forced sale value, its meaning and statutory provisions on the same. 3, after your explanation in BI above, Wala is now quite keen to sell the property to Maria and seeks for your advice on the conveyancing steps to be taken to ensure that transaction and subsequent transfer of the property is a bit completed. Anyone who would like to take your explanation of the concept of forced sale value, its meaning and statutory provisions are the same? Quickly, anyone? If you have the Land Act, you'll see it somewhere down there. 80 to around 100, somewhere around there. Anyone? Yes, Jackson?
Sorry, Odor, it's an old hand.
All right. Anyone else, guys? Let's move this. Yes, Anne?
Good evening once again. Just a trial. So the forced sale value, the forced sale value, the forced sale valuation is usually undertaken before exercising the statutory power of sale, and it should be undertaken by a licensed valuer so as to establish the property's market value. Yeah, and it's usually carried also as to as it's like an obligation the chargee owes the charger to obtain the best price at that time. And I think it's provided for by Section 97 of the Land Act.
Okay. Can you read for us that section, please?
Section 97, let me retrieve my, just a moment.
All right. Now, I think what you've explained plainly is the reason why we call it a for sale value, the reason why this principle is applying is, we are selling it in a circumstance that probably is different. This is a different, it's forced. We didn't even plan to sell this property at this particular time, but just because this person has defaulted, now we have to sell this particular property. And sometimes the circumstances could not be favorable. You see, where someone is selling their property voluntarily, probably they'll wait for the right circumstances. They'll wait for the right time to sell this property. But now we have to sell this property because someone has to get paid. So these circumstances are different. We are forced to sell at that particular time. And that's why you'll realize that it is 75% and not 100%. Why? The circumstances could be tough. It could be that, we are going through COVID and, we are not able to get the best prices. We're not able to. So you can't force us to sell it at 100%. If we have someone who can give us 75%, again, some people argue that it is 25%, then, we can sell the property. The circumstances are very different. I want to believe that is the concept behind it. If you disagree, you have a different answer. Again, an open forum. We learn every day. Anyone with another answer? Bernard, then I think
Yes.
Anya the section. Bernard, go ahead.
I found it.
Yes, my thinking was usually when you're doing when you're carrying out a valuation of a property and mostly land, I have seen and more specifically for purpose of credits, access to credit or any form of cash, the valuer, the certified valuers usually give you various forms of prices for that property. Usually, they'll give you the market price, which is under normal circumstances, of course, dictated by the demand and supply. Then they will give you the first value. Then they will give you, they'll give you the mortgage value. Yeah. Then from the mortgage value, they will give you the first value. And then I think the insurance value. So a proper valuation carries these four values. And to me, the market value now is the one that we sell under the usual circumstance, as you've said, and where there is demand, where the forces of demand and supply meet. But for purpose of the mortgage value, I think it will be just from the mortgage. So that one is self-explanatory. I think also insurance, maybe there is an insurance value that, if you lose the property, that is what the insurance can, give you back. So lastly, for me, the question of first value would be that value that, of course, circumstances are different, but still it will be that value that we can get within the shortest time possible. Because remember, this is nearly like after the 14 days, you want to dispose this property probably in the next 2 days. You do not have the luxury of a week, a month, a year. So within that week, you can still get someone who will give you the market rate, even if it's forced, because the thing is that the first value is just because, like personally, when probably if I want to buy a car from Daniel and I know Daniel wants to pay a medical bill that is accruing, the interest is accruing on it, then I will offer you the lowest amount because I know you are on the other side, you're under distress. But if you want to buy so that you can import maybe a Mercedes, so that you can import a V8, imagine, there is no hurry on the other end. Yeah. So that was my understanding. And then my interpretation would be that, of course, the statutory provisions have been given, and that will be my meaning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bernard. And I'm glad there's no financial distress. But that V8 is coming. Anyway, thanks, Bernard. On a light note. Yes, Anne, you can read for us.
Yes, Section 97, subsection 2 of the Land Act provides that a chargee shall, before exercising the right of sale, ensure that a forced sale valuation is undertaken by a valuer. Should I proceed?
Proceed. I think it's more than that.
If the price at which the charged land is sold is 25% or below the market value at which comparable interests in the land of the same character and quality are being sold in the open market, there shall be a rebuttable presumption that the chargee is in breach of duty imposed by subsection 1, and the charger whose charged land is being sold for that price may apply to a court for an order that the sale to be declared void, but the fact that a plot of charged land is sold by the chargee at an undervalue being less than 25% and below the market value shall not be taken to mean that the chargee has complied with the duty imposed by subsection 1. And then it goes ahead and reads, it shall not be a defense to proceedings against a chargee for breach of duty imposed by subsection 1 that the chargee was acting as an agent or under a power of attorney from the charger or any former charger. A chargee shall not be entitled to any compensation or indemnity from the charger, any former charger, or any guarantor in respect of any liability arising from a breach of the duty imposed by subsection 1. The sale by a prescribed chargee of any community land occupied by a person shall conform to the law relating to the community land, save that such a sale shall not require any approval from a community land committee. Any attempt by a chargee to exclude all or any of the provisions of this section in any charge instrument or any agreement collateral to a change or in other way shall be void. That's all.
All right, Anne. So I think we've read through that and we can see everything. Now, we've always had an issue with that 25%. The people who subtract it from 100 to get 75. The people who say that so long as the value is 25% more than the open market value, then you're good to go. And of course, there are courts which have interpreted it to mean 25% and above of the open market value. And of course, we've also had issues with people. Of course, there's a debate over that, but yeah, whatever you interpret, whatever you agree with. Again, I've always believed that 25% is way, way less and not fair at all. But again, the courts that have said that 25% is what the act says, and that's what you should go with. If the people of Kenya believe that that is not fair, then maybe the legislators need to change that particular part of the section. Okay, now, after your explanation in BI above, Wala is now quite keen to sell the property to Maria and seeks for your advice on the conveyancing steps to be taken to ensure that transaction and subsequent transfer of property is completed. Anyone would like to take us to that? Now they want to sell to the property to Maria, who is able to pay 19 million in cash. Okay, and they seek for your advice on the conveyancing steps to be taken to ensure that transaction. What is the conveyancing process that is involved when it comes to sale? The normal sale. We are selling. This guy wants to sell the property so that what is the process? What is the process? Especially considering the fact that this property is charged to Azina Bank, yet they want to sell it. What is the process? Anyone? The property is already charged. This person is in default. Now they want to sell it to Maria. Remember, he's only supposed to pay the bank 8 million. That is the only thing that is pending. Maria is able to pay him, is ready to pay him 19 million. So of course, he'll pay the bank 8, then remain with the other 8. But what will we use to give the bank the comfort, to allow the bank to actually release this title so that it can be sold and they can get the money back? Again, just to give you a hint, the professional undertakings will be very, very important here. Anyone? There's a hand that is raised. Go ahead. Odhiambo Stephen?
Yes, thank you. In this case, these guys will, their advocate will issue a professional undertaking to the bank to release the charged title, because the bank is the custodian of the title. So they will give an undertaking that this title will be used to transfer this land to this lady. Then part of the payment out of this 19 million then shall be paid to the bank's account to enable them discharge the land and allow the, let me see, the lady to register the land in her name. That is how I would go about it.
All right, and Stephen?
That is part one of it.
Yes, let me ask you a question. The undertaking will be to the bank or the advocates of the bank?
The undertaking comes from the advocate of, what is his name? Wala, to the advocates of the bank.
Okay.
Yeah, so then if that is done, then now we're going to follow the due process, the normal process. But here I will assume that already, I don't know whether now to include the searches, but now I want to assume the searches, but you will guide me. Then now we just go to the drafting of the agreement, sale agreement, then the transfer will take place. Once the payment is done and the bank releases the title, the purchaser will go ahead to pay, and the seller will go ahead to submit the title for the registration of the sold land. Yeah, that's my take.
Thank you, Stephen. I think you have really, really put in work there. Thank you so much. Anyone else who wants to add to what Stephen has said? The two hands that are raised, Bernard, I can't see them.
Sorry, I'm just checking from here. The hands that are up. Odhiambo and Gisheru, the only two. They have spoken. No, Anne has not spoken. And yes, Anne can speak.
Yeah, and the other guys, you guys are just listening, guys. Please just let's all do this together. Let's not just leave the show to a few people. Yes, Anne.
Oh yes. So the process, I'd say we'd first start with a sale agreement, and the sale agreement needs to be drafted and signed, and it should also bear a clause of professional undertaking. And then the purchaser is going to bring the sale agreement to the bank, and then the bank will give the purchaser an offer letter. And when the purchaser accepts the offer letter, the bank will issue instructions to draft a charge and for the valuation to be done by the bank's valuer. And then the bank's lawyer will contact the purchaser's lawyer and also draft the charge and call for the terms of undertaking from the purchaser's advocates. And then the charge is executed by the charger, who basically means that the charger is supposed to witness as well as his lawyer. And then after that, the bank's lawyer will send the charge to the bank for the bank to execute it or sign. And then what follows is stamping and registration of the charge and the transfer.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for even adding. Yes, go ahead. Anyone else? Someone else? Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Anne.
my hand was raised.
Go ahead.
So just to add on what Stephen had said, since this is a charged land that is to be transferred, Wala first needs to seek consent from the bank before transferring, and the bank must accept before he can proceed now to try and sell the land to the lady. That's all I seek to add, and I associate myself with Stephen.
Okay, Stephen, you now have an associate. Nice. Thanks. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. Guys, there's no other hand up. Anyone else wants to try? Okay. Now, because time is well spent, we're going to move. So we have three parties here, guys. We have the bank that is holding the title that are waiting to be paid 8 million. We have Wala, who owns the title. The title is in Wala's name. Even though they don't keep it, they're the ones who still own it. If you look at the register, you'll find that they're still the owner of this particular property, just as they took a loan with a particular bank. Now, we also have Maria. Maria wants to purchase this property that is charged to the bank and that belongs to Wala. So, first of all, for us to do any transfer of this particular property, we must have the title documents. For us to do anything with this land, the title documents must be there. For us to even discharge the charge by the bank, for us to register a charge, to do anything, to transfer this particular land, we need the title document. In fact, sometimes people will tell you, for us even to pay you the remaining amount, we have to cite the title. Because why would this come up? These people will have to do a search. And I think you alluded to this, Stephen, but again, I think you're a bit shy to talk about it. But yes, I think it's very important. In this country, considering how land is very, very contentious, nobody would want to buy your land without conducting a search. And for them to conduct a search, at least they need a photocopy of the title, or they'll need to cite this title before they give you the full purchase price. They'll want to see the title. And so it's important that we find a way of getting this title from the bank. Now, what the bank needs is to be paid the 8 million. I mean, it is never the intent. The bank doesn't care whether you are going to sell your land. You are the one. Remember, this is a voluntary sale. Now you are the one selling it to Maria. If you want to sell it for 9 million, so long as you will be able to pay the bank, it's 8 million. The bank doesn't mind, but you have to pay back the bank. So you need the title. The bank wants 8 million. So this is what will happen here. Wala will reach out to the bank, informing the bank of this particular person, Maria, who wants to buy the property from him, probably at this 19 million. And to prove this, Wala will give the bank a sale agreement, as someone has correctly stated here. Because again, the bank will not just list for you the property because by word of mouth that, oh, I want to sell it to Maria. No. What if that is not the case? So there must be something to support this that you're telling the bank. This is the security to the bank. If it is not there, then the bank is exposed. So Wala and Maria will sit down and sign a sale agreement. Of course, in this sale agreement, they'll agree that a PU has to be given. Everyone's right will be protected. So Wala will give this sale agreement to the bank to prove that actually Maria wants to buy this property at 19 million. After Wala has instructed the bank and has proven to the bank that there's someone called Maria who wants to buy this property as 19 million, Wala, if the bank, of course, I don't think the bank would inadvertently say, no, we are not able to, no. The bank would release this. They want to be paid. Even for them, they want to be paid. They want their accounts to look clean. They don't want to send their reports to CBK and it's showing that, there's this loan that is going bad. This person is not performing. They want to be paid. They want to get out of this dirty business and move on with a clean book. So what will happen is Wala's advocate will issue a professional undertaking to the bank's advocate, telling the bank's advocate this. Now, release to me this property for the sole reason of transferring it to Maria And after transferring the property to Maria, it is either Wala's advocate will tell the bank that within 60 days after you've released for me this title, I'm going to pay you your 8 million. Or within 14 days after registering the transfer from myself to Maria, I'm going to pay you your 8 million. And so the bank is covered. The bank is covered. So again, just to reiterate, Wala will give the bank evidence proving that they want to sell the property to Maria. The best way to do this is to use a sale agreement between Wala and Maria. Then Wala's advocate will give the bank a professional undertaking stating to the bank that if the bank releases the title documents, they'll pay back the 8 million within 60 days from the date of receipt of this title, or 14 days after transfer has been registered from Wala to Maria. Again, advocates usually like to add this, that if the bank also, when releasing the title, if the bank also signs the discharge of the charge, which is on this title, the same will still apply. So the bank will release the title with a discharge of charge, which the bank has already signed. Okay, guys, so it's based on the professional taking from Wala's advocate to the bank's advocate. Because the bank is now comfortable, we're releasing this title. Within 60 days of Wala's advocate receiving this title from us, they're going to pay us. Or within 14 days of a transfer being registered from Wala to Maria, we're going to be paid. And so the bank is safe enough to release to you the title and to sign the discharge of charge. Now, why is it important for the bank to sign the discharge of charge? You'll realize that Maria maybe will tell Wala in the sale agreement that I'm only going to buy your property if the bank has discharged. I don't want to buy a property that is encumbered. I do not. And if that is the case, Wala, then I'm only giving you 8 million. The remaining 8 million I'm sending to the bank directly. I'm not sending it to you. Okay? So to make things seamless, the bank will give out the title together with the discharge of charge which they have signed. So Wala will receive the title with the discharge of charge. Wala will go to the lands registry, register the discharge of charge so that the property is not encumbered anymore. Then register the transfer from Wala to Maria. As per the sale agreement, you'll find the sale agreement says that probably after 14 days of registering the transfer, Maria is supposed to pay certain amounts to Wala. Now, in the sale agreement, you'll realize that the account, it's either they've put the account for the bank, that is where the 19 million will go to, or they've put that, they've stated that 8 million will be wired to the account of the bank, and the remaining amount will be wired to the account of Wala. So within 14 days of registering this transfer, the bank will be paid, and whatever remains, Wala will go with home. And everyone is safe, and everyone is going home happy. And that's why a professional undertaking will work magic here. So what have I said? One, Wala sends the sale agreement as evidence that they have a transaction going on between them and Maria. And they'll be selling this property for 19 million. Based on this comfort, and based on a professional undertaking from Wala's advocate to the bank's advocate, the bank will release the title to Wala together with a discharge of charge that has already been signed by the bank. Wala will be telling the bank in this professional undertaking that if you release this title and sign the discharge of charge, within 60 days of me receiving the title and the discharge of charge, we will pay you your 8 million. Or within 14 days of registering the transfer, we will pay you your 8 million. Once Wala receives the title from the bank based on those particular terms, Wala will go to the lands registry with the title and the discharge of charge. Wala will simultaneously register the discharge of charge and register the transfer from Wala to Maria. Of course, you'll realize in the sale agreement, sometimes they say that immediately the transfer is registered, 10 days or even 14 days after the transfer is registered, Maria will wire the money directly to Wala or wire 8 million to the bank, then the remaining 8 million is wired to Wala. At that point, everyone is happy and this transaction is over. Let me look at the question again. They're saying, address on the conveyancing steps to be taken, which we've talked about, to ensure the transaction and the subsequent transfer of the property is successful, and that the interests of all parties are concerned are adequately catered for. And then the reason why I ended up talking about the three parties is so that we know which parties are they talking about in this question. We have the bank, we have Wala, we have Maria. From what I have explained, the bank has received their 8 million, Wala has received the remaining 8 million, Maria has a property in her name, and this property is not charged to the bank. Any questions? Any questions, guys? Please, if you don't understand, just ask. Me, I'm here. Just ask, we explain it, we move forward to the next thing. So the professional undertaking will work so much magic here. Of course, apart from the professional undertaking, we also have a sale agreement. For Wala to be able to register the transfer, there must be a transfer which has been signed between the two of them, between Wala and Maria and all that stuff. Yes, Nyawiran.
Thank you. My question is not on that particular one you addressed. It's on the issue of forced sale value. Ordinarily, when you make that forced sale value, does the remainder amount go to the property owner? Like, say, if you are, okay, well, a property is charged for 10 million and forced sale value be 16 million, say. So does the owner get 6 million?
Correct. The bank will never ever take more than they deserve. Never ever. They only take what is theirs.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you have to pay the bank the remaining 8 million, the bank will only want their 8 million. Once you've paid them, whatever remains, they'll send it back to the charger. It's not their money. Any other question? Yes, Pius?
Yes. Can the bank's advocates and the advocate for Wala agree on an escrow account?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. They can.
Okay.
They can. Yeah. And that's why I was saying, it's either the sale agreement will say that the money will go to 8 million will be sent to the bank and 8 million will be sent to Wala, or 8 million will be sent to an account held by the bank, could be an escrow account that once the money has hit that account, the bank, of course, marks it for no debit, takes its money and releases the remaining money to Wala. So yes, it's correct. Yeah, that can also be done. I want to believe that we have no other question, guys. There's another question. Now, just scroll down, Absalom, to the next question. Now, this one will be, okay, so whether Wala has to notify all current tenants to vacate the property before completion of the transaction with Maria. Wala strongly feels that he should not issue such notice because he thinks they are all good tenants. Anyone, real quick, this is only 2 marks. Should the notice be issued and why? Anyone, should the notice be issued?
I can try quickly in the interest of time, Daniel.
Go ahead.
For me, I think the notice to all current tenants to me to vacate the property before completion of the transaction with Maria. I think there is no need for the notice, provided the tenants are meeting the obligation under the current lease agreement or the tenancy agreement. Then the property can still be transferred to Maria, and then Maria will take hold. Maria will take hold of the property, and then the notices can follow later after the transfer. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bernard. So Bernard believes that since these are all good tenants, why not just keep them? Maria will come in and continue to, own this property, and if these guys are paying their money, why not? Why not? Pius?
Yes. Actually, I want to rely on Section 48 of the Land Act, the marginal notice transfer subject to a lease. So it is not necessary to issue a notice, but because these are people who are paying rent, they may want to pay rent to the next owner. So for me, I think in order to avoid liability, Wala can just give a notice to the tenants that they are changing, the land is being transferred, rather the property is being transferred, and from now on they will be paying their rent to the new owner.
Thank you, Pius. Now, I want to join those two answers. Yes, and the both of you are correct, just that the answers can be put together. Now, if Maria will now own this property, we all know the rights for ownership under Article 40 of the Constitution. If you own it, you can sell it if you want, you can dispose of it if you want, you can use it the way you want. Okay? So, Bernard, I want you to think of a situation where you're buying a property from me and I already have tenants there. Okay, and you've given me 19 million. Okay, you don't know these tenants, you don't know how much they're paying. We've had no discussions, but I've told you, oh, Bernard, these are good tenants. Do not worry. That's just fine. And I also want you to imagine a situation where, you are one of the tenants, and Pius is currently you are paying monies to Pius. Now Pius is selling their property to me, so I'm going to be the new owner of this property. And which rights do I have? To dispose it, to send you away, to keep you, to give the property to someone else? So I want to believe that yes, if these are good tenants, and you and me sit down, I'm the one buying it, and you're the one selling it to me. Since I'm the one who's buying it and I have all this, me and you sit down and tell me, Daniel, you know what? These people have been paying. These are the cash flows. They pay every month, and I am okay with it. Then you don't have to give these tenants a notice to vacate. Again, you have to look at the question. The question is saying a notice to vacate. However, you can notify them of the new management. I think it's only proper and important that you do so. Because imagine a situation where you have not done so and they keep paying their money to you. You'll have a problem with me. I'll tell you that this person is not paying me. This is now my property. They still pay you. On what basis? So I think it's important that you give a notice to these people, not to vacate the property, but a notice informing them of the change of the management. However, if I sit down with you, Bernard, and my position is, I don't want this people to be there. I have this and this. I don't like this particular person, and of course, there's a lease which is a contract. If in that lease it is not provided that if you give a 1 month notice, then they can leave, then I have to stay with these guys for the period of the lease. And these are things that we have to discuss before I sign that sale agreement. So if the lease provided that provision is not there, that we cannot just terminate it by giving a 1 month notice for them to vacate, then I have to live with them. However, if the lease provided that you, Bernard, you can give them a 1 month notice and they will vacate, and I don't want them to be there, I don't like them, then you have to actually give that notice. So what am I saying? Whether you issue a notice to vacate or not will depend on the lease that is currently ongoing between you and this tenant. Again, whether you'll give a notice to vacate will depend on whether I am okay with these tenants or I'm not okay. Because now I'm the owner. Article 40 is very clear. I decide. It is me who will now decide and forth. However, what I believe, and I think what also Pius has said, it is a must. I think it is very important. It is imperative that you give them a notice informing them of the change of management. Bernard, that is okay?
Yeah, I like the hybrid approach.
Yeah.
But mine was guided, of course, on the issue of payment, the new payments to the new owner. I agree.
Yeah.
That will be imperative. But now the question is saying even to vacate, tenants to vacate. So I said no to me. Yes, to say no to vacating, because if they have a contract with the existing owner, it doesn't lapse with the
Yeah.
new owner. Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't lapse. And I think maybe that could have been the spirit.
Yeah, unless there's a provision that allows it to be terminated, Yes?
Yes, then again, there is also the words of before completion. So my
Yeah.
understanding is, what if there will be frustrations before
Yeah.
completion? Yeah. So actually, there could be issues that may come up that either party may want to say, I can, of course, the money is being raised in cash, which is good. There will be no issues of specific performance delayed payments, which is fine. But just saying tenants to vacate and before completion is what guided me to think the tenants must be at peace. Just the same way governments change, but civil servants do not change.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So I think we've agreed on that. If the lease provides, yes, but it would be better to just keep them, especially if the lease doesn't provide for that particular section. Pius, you're also okay?
Yes, I think I supported Bernard's section because that is the provision of Section 48 of the Land Act 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing is, the only thing I added is notify them of the change of owner.
Change of management.
To protect them from being liable, not to have paid rent to the rightful owner, because you said they are good tenants.
Yes.
So you're just protecting them from that liability.
Okay. So that rests that particular question. I think it has been answered extensively. Question 2. Anyone would like to read for us question 2? Anyone would like to read for us question 2? Anyone? Yes, I will.
Question 2. Mark Githaiga is a graduate of economics from Makerere University in Uganda. For the last 5 years, Mark has been looking for employment without much success. Upon consultation with his father, Mark has decided to venture into the entertainment industry. Mark subsequently has decided to establish a nightclub just next to the Quiver Lounge along Thika Road. He has approached Alfred Kariuki, who owns the building next to Quiver Lounge. The two have agreed to enter into a written agreement so that Mark can take up the building for his business for a period of not more than 7 years for rent of 1.2 million shillings per year. Should I read the questions or I stop there?
Just read all the questions.
So part A, state the legal document to be prepared to protect the interests of both parties. Question B, draft 2 clauses to be contained in the legal document A above so as to remove the transaction from the realm of controlled tenancies. Question C, when the legal document in A above is drawn, it is agreed that Mark shall occupy the premises for 6 years and pay an annual rent of 1.2 million shillings. Compute the stamp duty payable on the legal document. And the last part, in the course of his business, Mark has faced stiff competition from the Quiver Lounge. As a result, he decided to invite Mary Njeri to establish a salon and massage business in a section of the building for an annual rent of 600,000. This is in grave violation of the agreement with Alfred. Alfred is incensed with this act and wishes to abrogate the agreement. Advise Alfred to ensure his action is valid in law.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Awur. Now, again, another tip that I'd like to give you guys, when it comes to exams, read every single question. Read all the questions first. If you realize in question 1 was connected to question 2, and 2 is connected to 3, and 3 is connected to 4. So you might start answering question 1, and you're answering question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4 together. So just read all of them, then you'll actually know which answer is supposed to be. So 1A, state the legal document to be prepared to protect the interests of both parties. Anyone? This one is easy. Anyone? The legal document to be prepared to protect the interests of both parties? Yes, Stephen?
The lease agreement.
All right. Anyone who disagrees? Anyone who disagrees? Okay, there's no disagreement. B, I've said there's no disagreement. B, draft 2 clauses to be contained in the legal document in A above so as to remove the transaction from the realm of controlled tenancies. Anyone? First of all, what are controlled tenancies? Anyone? What are controlled tenancies? Anyway, I'll read quickly. If you look at the Landlord and Tenant Shops, Hotels and Catering Establishment Act, if you look at section 2, the Landlord and Tenant Shops, Hotels and Catering Establishment Act, section 2, it talks about controlled tenancies, and it defines controlled tenancies to mean a tenancy of a shop, hotel, or catering establishment, A, which has not been reduced into writing, or B, which has been reduced into writing and which is for a period not exceeding 5 years, or contains provisions for termination otherwise than for breach of covenant within 5 years from commencement, or relates to premises specified by the company, specified by the cabinet secretary as controlled tenancies, provided that no tenancy to which the government, the community, or a local authority is a party, whether as landlord or as tenant, shall be controlled tenancy. So that is what a tenancy, a controlled tenancy mean. Not reduced into writing, or, again, the word used there is or and not and. So those two must be read separately. B is which has been reduced into writing, however, is for a period not exceeding 5 years, or it has been reduced into writing, but it contains a provision for termination otherwise than a breach of covenant within 5 years from commencement, or relates to premises specified by the company secretary. So draft 2 clauses to be contained in the legal document in A above so as to remove the transaction from the realm of controlled tenancy. Anyone? Yes, Stephen?
Let me give it a try. The first clause I will put is that the lease period will be either 5 years and 5 months or 6 years. I will even borrow from the other question there, say that the lease need to be 6 years. So I will ensure that the lease is more than, so a period of more than 5 years. Then
5 years.
The other point I was thinking, but I don't know how to put it, is that I don't know whether it can be put in clause, but will still guide is that now the lease agreement, there is need to have a lease agreement down, because if you what you have read that control tenancies, you don't need to put them in writing. I think that is what you read in the first in A. But I really don't know how to put it. Someone can assist me.
Okay. So I think A, since they've told you that you draft, so we are writing. So automatically A will not apply. So we have to look at B and C, if there is any. They've told you to draft it. So of course it's in writing. So then A is not applying. Yes, Kevin? Yes, Stephen, A is automatically out, so there's no need to worry about it. We are drafting, we are writing it. Yes?
Just a minute, someone can go ahead.
Okay. Anyone else to give us the second one, the second provision that you'll put? It's just a hint. It's a termination clause. Anyone apart from Stephen? Anyone else?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
I'd say a notice clause.
Go ahead. A notice clause.
Yes.
Why? What is the rationale?
To be honest, I can't quite remember, but I remember us mentioning it in class that when we put a notice clause, it then becomes an uncontrolled tenancy.
Okay. All right. Any other person who would like to try?
Yes, Odwar.
Go ahead.
I'll just write the lease will terminate after 6 years from the date of the agreement. So that is a termination clause.
That the lease will terminate after 6 years. I'm just asking. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
Udur, I can give it a shot.
Go ahead.
So my clause would be a default clause, but the default clause would be expressly for breach of covenant. So it would read, either of the parties may issue a notice in case of default for breach of covenant to the other party. So I'd ensure that this clause is strictly on default for breach of covenant, because as you have read that section 2.1 of the Landlord and Tenants Act, Cap 301, it states that it contains a notice for or a termination clause other than for breach of covenant. So if your agreement doesn't contain this notice for or the termination clause for breach of covenant, I mean another termination clause other than for breach of covenant, then it makes it an uncontrolled tenancy. But I'm guided on the same.
Exactly. Because imagine over lease agreement for 6 years, but we're telling you that, you know, it will terminate for any other reason. Even if today I just wake up in the morning and I want to send you out, it doesn't matter that we have a contract for 6 years. I'm not tied to it. You can go home. I can send you away at any time. So then this is a month-to-month lease. You know, this is a periodic, it's a month-to-month lease. It's a day-to-day. I wouldn't want to call it day-to-day because people don't pay rent per day. It's a month-to-month lease. If this month I want to send you away, it doesn't matter that we are tied together for 6 years. You'll just go home. But so long as in this list you've said the only reason as to why I could send you away, it's either because there's a legal issue which relates to breach of the covenants which we have stated in that particular list. You get, that's why it's saying it contains a provision for termination otherwise, a provision that is different otherwise than for breach of covenant. A lease is a covenant. So we are telling you that, you know, we can send you away at any time. It doesn't matter the covenants that we have. So the clause must state correctly that this lease will terminate on breach of the covenants that we have agreed in this particular lease. And so we have a contract. We have a solid contract. If it is not solid, then we're saying that I'd send you away for any other reason. In fact, even the covenants that we have do not matter. If today I just wake up in the morning and say, and I don't want you there, I'd just send you away. So then why do we have a contract? It would be a month to month. There would even be no reason of having all these covenants. They don't even matter anyway. I hope that makes sense to us. Thank you so much for that. Yes, Donna?
Could you kindly repeat the explanation, because I'm finding it hard to relate that section and how you're explaining it in simpler terms.
Okay, so the section says it contains provision for termination. So we're talking about termination. Otherwise, I know we know the meaning of otherwise. So it contains provision for termination otherwise than for breach of covenant. So we have other reasons for terminating this contract otherwise than for breach of covenant. So apart from breaching the covenants that we have in that particular lease, I could send you away for any other reasons which we have not stated in that particular lease. Meaning, I could wake up this month and say that, you know what, I'm tired of seeing you with your red with your red suits and your gray trousers. I just don't want to see you anymore. And so next month I give you I give you notice that I don't want to have you there for any reason whatsoever. Or I tell you by next week Friday, I don't want to see you there. I just want you to move. Someone would then ask, then why do we have a contract? The reason why we usually have contract is to give you that particular comfort. That the only reason as to why I would live here is if I go against the agreements that we have under this lease. In fact, if I do not go against these agreements, then I am still here. I am covered. Okay. But now I'm giving you a list that is telling you that it doesn't matter, apart from what we have stated in this list. If today I wake up with any other reason whatsoever in my mind, I could just terminate this lease. It could end either way. Then that becomes a month-to-month lease. It depends on my discretion. In fact, the lease doesn't even matter. It depends on my discretion. I could send you away at any time. I could take away this right at any time. And the covenants that we have do not matter. But where you have a lease that is saying that the only reason that we could terminate this lease is for breach of the covenants that we have written and that we have agreed on, then we have a lease that is different from a controlled tenancy. Remember, the first answer that we had for controlled tenancy is that the lease is not put in writing. So where we are saying that we could send you away, we could terminate it for reasons that are not even in writing, then it doesn't even matter what we have in writing. It is all not in writing anyway, because what we've written doesn't matter. I could still terminate this lease for other reasons that you even do not know about. But where we are saying that the only reason as why we could terminate it is for reasons that are well elucidated and explained in that list, then we have some backing. What is written really has force. Does that answer that question?
Yes, so just to see if I'm understanding, so it means in a lease agreement, it can only be terminated according to the terms that have been agreed on in the lease.
The lease, yes. We've agreed that if I'm giving you one notice, I'm giving you 1 month notice for this and this and this particular reason. We have covenant. So I cannot just wake up and give you a notice. You don't even know why. You don't understand the context. You know, you have no reason after, you have no explanation to the reason as why you are receiving this particular notice. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Daniel, we have two hands.
Okay, go ahead.
From Gisheru and Oyo.
Yes, I just want to read the provision so that we interpret it correctly.
Okay.
So it contains provision for termination, otherwise than for breach of covenant within 5 years from the commencement thereof. Otherwise than. So my understanding is that the termination clause is just for breach of contract within the 5 years from commencement, but it does not have an express termination clause, express termination clause. So that is my understanding. That is what I was saying, that if I want to change it not to be a controlled tenancy, then I need to provide an express termination clause, of course, with a notice clause. So I think our points of departure is interpreting otherwise than for breach of covenant. So for me, the way I understand it is that the provision for termination is just for breach of covenant, but it is not an express clause that says that this lease, or rather these tenancies for this period of time, and it will end at this time. Like maybe a lease of 21 years. So it is not expressed. So that I don't know how other students or other colleagues are also understanding it. But that is the background from which I was trying to write my termination clause. Thank you.
Welcome, Pius.
We have a hand from Anne.
Anne?
Yes. Hey, for me, I'm a little bit confused when it comes to the, transition to the uncontrolled tenancy. So you'd said that for controlled tenancy, there's a provision for termination, otherwise than for breach for covenant within 5 years from the government. So my question is, if we want it to be an uncontrolled tenancy, okay, please just explain again. I'm so sorry for taking you back.
So we have two explanations. We have two interpretations for that matter. For Pius, he believes that, and again, when I'm quoting Pius, it's not because I disagree with him. Again, I've said, I think law is a profession where, so long as what you are saying can be backed by facts, then you're good to go. So Pius, I want to believe that what you're saying is we have a termination clause for breach of covenant or for reasons otherwise for that breach of covenant. Please just come up again.
Yes. You see, if you look at the provision, it says otherwise than for. So there is a termination that is just for breach of covenant within 5 years from the commencement thereof. So it does not have an express termination where we will say that the lease will end at this time. So it is just for breach. So should someone breach the covenant, then the lease can be terminated.
All right.
So
That is your...
Yes. So the termination clause is just based on breach of covenant, otherwise than for breach of covenant. So that is how I understand it, but I can be guided.
It's okay. You can also guide. It's okay. So this is how I understand it. So controlled tenancy means a tenancy of a shop, hotel, or catering establishment which has been reduced in writing and which contains a provision for termination. So we have a provision for termination. It contains a provision for termination. However, the provisions that it has for termination are otherwise than for breach of contract within 5 years from commencement. So I want to believe if you say otherwise than, it means that they are separate. They are not the same. There's a difference. So we have a provision for termination, but it does not depend on breach of covenants. It is not expressed on the breach of covenant. It covers other things. But if the termination clause that we have is only for breach of covenant within 5 years from commencement, then I want to believe that we have uncontrolled tenancy. But where we have a termination clause, which goes past termination only for breach of contract, there are other things that are added which are not expressed, then we have controlled tenancy. And the reason as to why I said this is because where we have reasons for termination, which are otherwise than the covenants that we know that we all understand, then we've left this tenancy so open that when you come up with these other reasons, these other reasons that probably are not expressly written in the lease, then you can use those reasons to terminate this contract. And to that extent, therefore, we are only having a lease in your discretion. In fact, there would be no reason for us to even have anything in writing, because when you come up with these other reasons that I do not know about, I wouldn't be able to defend myself. I do not know them. So you can just wake up in the morning and come up with a reason and tell me that because you've been doing this, we've terminated the reason. We have other reasons more than just for termination of contract. But where we have a lease that ties us to only breach that ties us to termination for only breach of covenants that we can actually see, then we have an uncontrolled tenancy. But where we have termination clause, which is for other reasons otherwise than for breach of contract, then we have a controlled tenancy because of the amount of power that you have. That even for other reasons that are not explicitly provided in this lease, you could end up still terminating the particular lease that you're talking about. Because of that control, that much discretion that you have, then I'd talk of a controlled tenant. So we have those two diverging opinions on this matter. However, again, what I'd like to say is this, yeah? It depends on how you understand it. I could be wrong. Q's could be right. Pius could be wrong. I could be right. So long as you can defend it and so long as you understand what you are actually saying. So, Pius, I think that settles it. I wouldn't want us to spend so much time on that 2 marks. Pius?
Yes, I'm guided, sufficiently
Okay.
guided.
Okay, or you have guided me, please. Let's leave it open like that. Then this, the person who asked, I think it was Anne or who? Are you okay? We have those two interpretations.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yes,
again,
I agree with the interpretation.
Okay. But Pius could
And
also be right.
also,
Let's just
yes, please repeat about the notice clause.
Notice clause. I don't think we talked about a notice clause. We've talked about termination clause. I think you've talked about the termination clause. Because I don't see a place where it talks about notices here. I can only see termination and the period. The period must exceed 5 years and termination must not be for reasons otherwise than for breach of contract. That's okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Again, guys, you can do more research on that part B. I'm not saying Pius is wrong, please. C, when the legal document in A above is drawn, it is agreed that Mark shall occupy the premises for 6 years and pay an annual rent of 1.2 M. Compute the stamp duty payable on the legal document. Anyone? What is the answer? How do you do it? How do you get it? Stamp duty payable on the legal document? Anyone? Stamp duty payable on registration of the legal document. How much is it? How do you get it? They're paying an annual rent of 1.2 M. Compute the stamp duty. Anyone who knows how to do stamp duty? Okay, guys. Anyone? Time is really moving fast. Yes, Henry. I mean, Helton.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, so stamp duty charged on registration of a lease. If the lease is less than 3 years, it will be 1% of the annual rent of the lease. And then if it's 3%, if it's more than 3 years, it will be 2% of the annual rent of the lease. So we can calculate it from there.
Elton, could you give us your source so that we refer and calculate?
Yeah, please, Helton.
I've just got it from our notes. We were taught by Mr. Mbogo when we were doing conveyancing. So from the notes that when he was teaching us about taxes in regards to land.
Okay, guys, you can also look at the Stamp Duty Act. It explains it plainly and clearly. D, in the course of his business, Mark has faced stiff competition from the Quiver launch. As a result, he decided to invite Mary Jerry to establish a salon and massage business in a section of the building for an annual rent of 600,000. This is in grave violation of the agreement with Alfred. Alfred is incensed with this act and wishes to abrogate the arrangement. Advise Alfred to ensure his action is valid in law. Anyone? So this person has decided to sublease the property. Probably there was, they didn't obtain consent. They just decided to sublease. Anyone? He wants to abrogate the arrangement. He wants to terminate the lease. What is the procedure to ensure that his action is valid in law? How do you do it? Anyone? Yes, Anne.
Oh, sorry, I thought I had unmuted, but anyway, to end, the question is how to terminate a lease or how to end a lease, right?
In a legal manner.
I think there are several ways in which the lease can come to an end, and I think that's provided for by Section 73 of the Land Act. And certain ways include, I think, forfeiture, where the lessor will can choose to forfeit the lease if the lessee commits a breach or is adjudged bankrupt, or on the event if it's a business, it goes into liquidation, or the lessee can basically yield up the premises to the lessee impliedly or expressly. I think the name for that is surrender. And also the lease can end legally through expiry, basically extraction of time or frustration. Maybe there's a distraction within the property, and then the lessor has taken so much time, past 6 months, before fixing the repairs, where he'd been given a 1 month notice to fix the to make the repairs. And then there is also merger, whereby the interests are merged. I think this would occur where the lessee could purchase the property. Yeah, that's all I can remember. Or also there is disclaimer where you can just say that I'm no longer your lessee, or I'm no longer party to the lease agreement, and the lease just ends.
All right, Anne. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I think thank you so much for directing us to. I think someone. Yes. Yes. You want to say something?
Yes. So for me, this is how I would have answered it. So, of course, the issue of forfeiture is right, but now the question is how. So I would rely on Section 75, where I would advise the lessor to give a notice of 1 month, and in the notice, the lessor should specify the breach that the lessor is complaining of, and if the breach is capable of being remedied, then the lessor should require the lessee, that is Mark, to remedy the situation, rather the breach, within a reasonable period of time. And if Mark fails to remedy that breach by sending away or rather cancelling the sublease with Meringerie, then of course I would advise that Mark exercises his right of forfeiture. So that is how I would have answered the question.
All right. Thank you so much. I think there's no other hand that is up. So yes, thank you. Thanks to the both of you for directing us towards the right trajectory. So Section 75 Land Act, notwithstanding anything to the contrary, in the lease, no lessor shall be entitled to exercise the right of forfeiture. And the reason as to why we are, again, Anne, I realized that you talked about so many things, expiry, surrender, and everything else. This person wants to abrogate this lease. He wants to end it. He wants to terminate it. We're talking about forfeiture here. He wants to take back their property. They want to end it. They don't want to deal with this person anymore. So we're dealing with, we have to restrict ourselves to forfeiture. And I think you explained plainly the circumstances. And I think the first circumstance that you also talked about is we have a breach. And in this case, in this particular question, we have a breach. There's a breach. So again, the way Pius has explained, now we're talking about the process. So, and we just restrict ourselves to forfeiture. But again, thank you so much for also, tabling to us the other remedies. So forfeiture 75. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in the lease, no lessor shall be entitled to exercise the right of forfeiture for the breach of any agreement or condition in the lease, whether expressed or implied, until the lessor has served on the lessee a notice of not less than 30 days, A, specifying the particular breach complained of, and again, realize the word used there is and. So everything is being read together, not separately. And if the breach is capable of remedy, requiring the lessee to remedy the breach within such reasonable period as is specified in the notice. And C, in any case other than non-payment of rent, requiring the lessee to make compensation in money for the breach. And the lessee if the lessee has failed to remedy the breach within 30 days thereafter, if it is capable of remedy, and to make reasonable compensation in money. I think that's just an additional, it's a continuation of that particular section. But again, one day someone asked me this question: you've given this notice, you've given 30 days notice, you've specified everything that you've specified, but this guy is still there. What happens? You go and throw them, and then you go and throw them away and take over the house. What is the procedure? Anyone? Yes, you have to give a notice. You've given them a notice, Pius. But after this notice has elapsed, even though the notice has everything, they're still there. They have not moved.
Yes. Yes. So you proceed to section 76, where you apply to the court for relief, relief of forfeiture. Sorry. This is sorry, let me recollect my thoughts. Someone else can come.
I thought that will be for lessee.
Yeah? That will be for?
Yes, section 76 is for lessee to get relief against forfeiture.
Yes, section 76 for the lessee. And let's now section 77.
Read 77.
Let me read 77. 77 says, unlawful eviction. A lessee, this one is still for a lessee. A lessee who is evicted from the whole or part of the leased land or building, contrary to the express or implied terms and conditions of a lease, shall be immediately relieved of all obligation to pay any rent or other monies due under the lease, or perform any of the covenants and conditions on the part of the lessee expressed or implied in the lease in respect of the land or buildings or part thereof from which the lessee has been so evicted. I think that still protects the lessee.
Yes, so I have gathered my thoughts. I don't know if I can proceed. So you revert back to section 73 to the right of forfeiture. It provides for how the right of forfeiture can be exercised. So where neither the lessee nor any person claiming through or under him is in occupation of the land by entering upon or remaining in possession of the land. But you realize that here Mark is in occupation. So the only recourse you have is to enforce your right of forfeiture by an action in the court.
Thank you. And so, Pius, section 76 will apply. Now, this is what Ayera, our teacher, Mr. Ayera, told us. Yes, the lessee has this right, but the lessor also has the same right. I mean, we're in a situation where no one is able to give us. I mean, what happens where you need to evict someone from a particular place, and there's no other way to do it? And of course, if you go to the act only provides for the leasing. I mean, it's only through the courts that you're able to get an order to evict this person, especially where the court have opened a Pandora's box, enabling this person to go to court against you. So you can use the same section 76 as a lessor, go to the court, explain to the court that you have actually given this particular person a notice. The notice has elapsed. You did everything possible that you're supposed to do in the notice, and they're still there. The court will give you an order allowing you to evict this particular person from that particular place. So all you need is a court order. All you need is a court order in this scenario, and you'll use section 76 as the lessor. The same way a leasee would use the same section. So Pius, yes, we still go back to 76. So you have to get a court order.
Yes, you can you also look at 73 subsection 2 subsection B? Yeah, it also provides for the lessor to enforce his right of forfeiture by an action in the court.
Thank you. Yes. Barak?
I'm of a different opinion, especially with regards to the applicable law. I'm persuaded that perhaps we should use the Landlord and Tenant Act under section 4 and 7. And where Pius is saying going to court, I think a tribunal would be more appropriate when you look at the Landlord and Tenant Act.
Okay. Does this case fall under the landlord and tenant shops, hotels, and catering establishment act? Does it fall under the ambits of that particular act, or does it fall under another act?
I was of the opinion that it falls under the act.
The act applies to which tenancy, which types of tenancies? The landlord, tenant shops, hotels, and catering establishment act.
There's a bit of controlled tenancies, yeah, isn't it?
It applies to controlled tenancies, yeah?
Yes.
We don't have, what we have is uncontrolled tenancies. It's for, no wonder they were very careful to put for you 6 years, and no wonder the questions moving up, going down, the question, the person who said the question is trying to prove that to you, that there's a bit of a difference. It doesn't fall under the ambits of that particular act.
Okay, I was thinking maybe it doesn't specify that it is below 5 years.
It does indeed.
So I thought maybe it will fall there because there's also nothing that stops it from falling under that. Is there? Because it's only part C, unless the questions are sequential such that we have to presume that part C applies, the facts in part C. Okay, that was my thought process. I didn't see anything that would stop it from being a controlled tenancy.
All right, and I totally understand. But I want to believe that question D is connected to C, since you're talking about the same persons. I want to believe so, Barak. But yes, if that was not the case, then yes.
It is the case because, Barak, if you look at the question, the two have agreed to enter into a written agreement so that Mark can take up the building for his business for a period of not more than 7 years for rent of 1.2 million per year. So I think that removes the tenancy from the ambit of
the landlord.
Yes. I don't know if you've accessed it, Barak. It's the last paragraph of the question, of the statement in the question.
Yes, Piers. I think not more than 7 years is inclusive of the fact that it can also be 5 years, but I get your point anyway. So I'm just looking at the conflation
Yes,
around
yes.
these questions and the fact that does it matter that we are dealing with things like shops and all that, other than the duration?
It actually does.
Okay.
I don't know. Your question is to Pius, you want to answer?
For me, it does. The period really matters because control tenancies would go for not more than 5 years.
Yeah. But Barak, also the same. Thank you for bringing also that side of it. And now we have two answers. If it didn't fall here, then we'd use that one. And also now we've established the fact that when you are reading these questions during exams, you also have to really consider every single answer that you actually give. So I think that's also a good point. So yes, Barak, if it didn't fall there, if the case was different, in our opinion, it is not. If the case was different, then yes, we'd use those particular sections to answer the question. So I think that's also correct, Barak?
Yes, Daniel, that's fine.
Thank you so much. And yeah, it's nice when we also keep opening our minds and bringing in new dimension, new ways of thinking about it. Now someone knows now that we also have to really check that does it fall under this particular act before you use that act. And again, what does that act say about it? So it's very nice to be very, very open-minded. So thank you so much for that contribution. Now, question 3. Your client Baraka Kamau, Kai, you moved. Your client Baraka Kamau is the registered owner of a 10-acre farm in his home village of Muchatha, Kiambu County. He inherited the parcel from his father and lives on the property with his family. Baraka grows coffee on 5 out of the 10 acres and uses another 1 acre in rearing dairy cows under zero grazing practice. He wants to expand his farming enterprise and undertake commercial horticulture under greenhouses on remaining 4 acres. To finance the new venture, Baraka has approached his bank, which has agreed to lend him the necessary capital of cash, 3 million. However, the bank has asked for security for the loan, and Baraka is willing to give the title documents for his home property above for that purpose. The property details are title number Kiamba Muchata stroke 20018. Tenure is absolute proprietorship. Area is 4.04 hectares. Registered owner is Baraka Kamau. The bank manager mentioned to Baraka that the loan proceeds will not be disbursed until the security was perfected. Baraka has no clue what this means, but was shy to ask for clarification from the manager. Explain to Baraka what it means in law to have the security perfected. Anyone? This is very easy. Anyone? What does it mean? What does it mean to have the securities perfected? Anyone? Perfection? Yes, Awar?
I believe perfection is tantamount to registration of that charge.
D. What are the documents to be drawn and what are the respective roles of the advocates, since the bank manager told him that the bank would also be appointing its own advocates? Now, what are the documents to be drawn and what are the respective roles of the advocates? First. What are the documents to be drawn? Anyone? The documents to be drawn between the bank and Baraka? Of course, the charge is there. The letter of offer is there. Is there anything else? Yeah. The roles. What are the roles of the advocates? What are the roles of the chargee? Anyone? Chargees, the bank. What are the roles? Just give me. Let's have four. What are the roles of the advocates? Anyone?
Yes, I'll give it a shot. For the bank's advocate, the bank is the lender. The advocate will advise the bank on the appropriate security, whether they'll go with a formal charge or an informal charge, and also to investigate title, obtain title documents, and advise the bank to do what is it called, a valuation, and also physically inspect the property. And then for the borrower's advocates, they can discuss the offer letter and also the effect the security will have on the property, as well as to obtain the needed consents and clearances, and to explain the content of the charge and also to approve the charge.
Thanks. C. While standing to leave and looking quite embarrassed, Baraka mentions that his wife is opposed to his plan and has threatened to return to her mother's home if he proceeds to charge the family home, especially because Baraka's late father had verbally forbidden it. Baraka is, however, determined to go ahead anyway and seeks your confirmation that legally there's no bar to the process since he's solely registered as owner of the property. Advise Baraka. Again, another easy one. Anyone? Let's not have, not a war, not pious, not an.
Can I go?
Yeah, go. Then we'll have Donna.
Or not Bernard. Let then the other one go. Donna can go.
Go ahead, Donna.
Okay, in this case, property that is charged, he's supposed to seek spousal consent only if it is matrimonial property. And since this is not matrimonial property and it is registered in his own
Donna,
name, so it's.
Are you sure
Yes,
it's their
yes.
matrimonial home?
Or the matrimonial home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in that case, okay, let me just start. Normally, before proceeding with a transaction on a matrimonial property, one is supposed to seek spousal consent from their spouse. So in this case, since you're saying it's a matrimonial home, sorry, I can't see that in the question. But if it's that,
Let me if we look at the third line, he proceeds to charge the family home, especially because Baraka's late father. Does that allude to that?
Yeah. So it's a matrimonial property. It's a family home. So it's a matrimonial property. In this case, he must seek the consent of the wife before proceeding to use this property as security for the bank. And if he fails to seek the consent, there's always this instance where now when he fails to pay, the wife can come up and that will bar the bank from proceeding to sell the property. So the bank may not accept to proceed to charge without the consent of the spouse.
All right, so we have the Marriage Act, we have Anjana Ben Shah versus Akiba Bank, and any other case that you'd like to add. Again, I know they've stated there clearly that he's the only one registered as the owner. But I know you know where the law says that doesn't actually matter. The Marriage Act, the Matrimonial Properties Act said that doesn't matter. It is presumed, so long as it is a matrimonial property, even though it is in my name alone, it is our property and not just my property. So long as it is matrimonial, the fact that it's only in my name does not matter. So the Matrimonial Property Act, I think we also have the Marriage Act. We have Anjana Ben Shah versus Akiba Bank. And I think we also have the Land Act, which also talks about, yeah, that. Any other question? None at all, yes? None at all. Questions, none. Absalom, I think we can move.
Kindly, what's the citation of the case you just talked about?
Anjana Ben Shah, Anjanabel Anil Shah versus Akiba Bank. So exactly the same. Then the process also. There's a process for it. Barclays Bank PLC versus. I'll remember the other person. Barclays Bank PLC. I'll give you the one that talks about. Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes, O'Brien principles. O'Brien. Barclays Bank PLC versus O'Brien. The O'Brien principles. Thank you for that. Oh yeah, let's move faster. Question 4. Teresa Musila and Steve Mwendwa grew up together in Machakos County. They have been childhood friends. They continued their friendship into high school, university, and they are now happily married. They have always conducted their business and transactions together with joint bank accounts or property ownership. In respect of the latter, they purchased several parcels of land and registered in their two names, including their residential plot in Syokimau, Katani Road, that is Machakos Block 769/3. Go up a bit, Absalom. In the light of the foregoing facts, state two possible ways in which in light of the above foregoing facts, state two possible ways in which Teresa Musila and Steve Mwenda own Machakos Block 769/3. In the unfortunate event that either of them dies, explain how the registrar will register the parcel in the name of the surviving spouse in the two scenarios identified above. C, the county government of Machakos has heard the concerns of people of Syokimau. So I think that is a bit unrelated. So A, guys, anyone? The two scenarios? Go ahead, Awor, first.
Joint tenancy and tenancy in common.
In the unfortunate event of demise of either, in joint tenancy, what would happen?
The doctrine of survivorship.
Yes, Bernard. The procedure, just say the procedure. What would happen?
The procedure. The procedure will be that the home will automatically revert to the surviving spouse.
What is your authority?
Someone can pick it up.
Someone.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Land Registration Act, Section 92.
Just explain three things or anything.
Yeah, so in the unfortunate event that either of them dies, so if it is a joint tenancy, then of course the doctrine of survivorship shall follow. And what one of them will do is that they'll take the death certificate to the registrar, who shall remove the name of the deceased, and in place of it, register the death certificate. And the property will, of course, devolve to the surviving partner. If it was a tenancy in common, then the property will devolve to the estate of the deceased. Thank you.
All right. So the question is, in the unfortunate event that either of them dies, explain how the registrar will register the parcel in the name of the surviving spouse in the two scenarios. Now, I'd like us just to be at least specific. Yes, Pius, you're right. Yes, Bernard, you're right. But I'd like us to just have the specific regulations and the specific steps. So the both of you are right. And I think joint is what is easier. Now, you guys can look at Section 60 of the Land Registration Act and 49. Then you can also look at Regulation 54. One thing that I've learned with conveyancing is if you can read the regulations, guys, if you can read the regulations together with the Land Registration Act, together with the Land Act, you'll be in a very, very good place. Why? Conveyancing is all about procedure. So please, let's look at Regulation 54, Section 60 of the Land Registration Act in relation to transmission on death of a joint tenant. The procedure is this according to Regulation 54. 1, the surviving joint proprietor will notify the registrar of the death of the joint tenant and make an application for the removal of the name of the deceased from the register in Form LRA 38. The notice of death shall be supported by, as Pius said, the original death certificate and a certified copy of the death certificate. 2, upon receipt of the notice, the registrar shall note the death in the land register, retain the certified copy of the death certificate. C, return the original death certificate to the person who lodged the notice. So that is what is going to happen. And so you're going to get a new title with the name that you're talking about, the name of the person who is remaining. Then if you look at section 65, 61 of the Land Registration Act, section 50 of the Land Act, and regulation 56, 57, and 58 of the regulations, transmission on death of a sole proprietor or a proprietor in common. Okay, what happens here? This is the procedure. A personal representative who wishes to be registered as an administrator or executor shall apply to be registered as such through Form LRA 39. The application shall be supported by a copy of the grant of letters of administration or the grant of probate duly certified by the court. Where there are more than one personal representative, a personal representative may apply to be registered by transmission as a proprietor jointly with the other personal representative in Form LRA 40. So basically that is just provides for where we have more than one administrator. So after those administrators have applied either through Form LRA 40 or Form LRA 39, a transfer by a personal representative to the beneficiary shall be undertaken in Form LRA 42. A transfer by a personal representative to a beneficiary shall be undertaken through Form LRA 42. Why am I talking about the beneficiary? The estate is going to devolve to the children of this particular person or the spouse for that matter. So how is this done? What must be given to the court is a copy of the grant of letters of administration and the grant of probate duly certified by the court, or grant of probate, that is, a copy of the certificate of confirmation of the grant. C, the certificate of title or the certificate of lease. Where applicable, a land rent clearance certificate, a land rates clearance certificate. Where applicable, the consent of the head lessor, any other consent required by the registrar, and any other document as may be required. So that is the process. So let us look at Section 60 of the Land Registration Act, Section 49 of the Land Act, and Regulation 54 when it comes to transmission on death of a joint tenant. When it comes to transmission of where we have tenancy in common, let's look at Section 61 of the Land Registration Act, Section 50 of the Land Act, Regulation 56, 57, and 58 of the regulations. I know you guys know the regulations. C, the county government of Machakos has had the constance of the people of Syokimau of impassable and constricted roads in the area. The roads department has now decided to expand Katani Road. Machakos Block 7 is one of the parcels to be subsumed into the expanded road. The county government has therefore informed Trees and Steve that they will have to surrender their plot for road expansion. The couple have been agitated and distraught over this turn of events. They have come to you as their legal counsel to advise on how they can stop this inconvenience or otherwise have their rights protected. Kindly advise anyone. You can just say anything. First of all, what are we talking about here? Anyone? Yes, Steve.
Compulsory acquisition. So
how
the process will be
how they can stop it. Or how they can have them protected.
Just a minute. Let somebody go ahead first. Let me go through the question again.
No problem. No problem. But yes, it's compulsory acquisition.
Yes, can I try?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so they cannot stop it. But of course they can, their rights will be protected based on the Constitution that provides for compulsory acquisition. I'm just looking at the provision. And this is how it will be protected through prompt and reasonable compensation. Do you want me to talk about the process? Because I have to look at the regulations.
No, you don't have to. What I'm saying is they cannot.
Hello?
They can't stop it.
Yes, they cannot stop it because the state has the police power, or rather the eminent domain over land. So I think this is where right to property can be limited. I don't know whether I answered your question.
Yeah, but they can fight it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can help.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to associate with the speaker that to some extent they cannot stop it, though. Even though they have right to property, the government owns the land, and if the government want to use the land, then it has a right to take it. However, the Constitution, as he has stated, provides that there must be a just compensation. And again, if you look at Regulation 22, provides that, for instance, this is Machakos County. Machakos County needs to inform the National Land Commission, and that National Land Commission needs to confirm that the Machakos County has enough funds to compensate these people who will be affected. So I will say that they can't stop it, but if the county does not have enough fund to compensate them justly, then the National Land Commission can stop that process until the time when the county have the enough funds to compensate these people. Yeah, that would be my take.
Thank you.
Initially, I thought they wanted us to answer this question by way of giving out the process. That's why I revert back.
Yeah. So, I want to believe they can try to fight it, or there's a way it could be stopped. But I mean, honestly, they can't really stop it. We are the tenants of the state, but they can fight it. The reason why I'm saying that is from what the previous speaker said, and the fact that there's always a hearing. There's always a hearing before all these things proceed. Notice is always given of inquiry and hearing of claims, and these claims must all be settled. It's only after these claims have been settled that actually this property can actually pass. But yes, I mean, can they stop it? Nope. But I believe they can fight it. But they can't stop it. Barack, your hand is up.
Yes, I agree that they can fight it. And I think that one of the things I find strange is that it's the county government that is informing them. I thought it should be the National Land Commission. Maybe that could be one of the grounds to look at. I don't know whether it's de minimis or it matters. That it's the county government here that is interested, that is the same one that is telling them. I thought the law provides for National Land Commission to be involved.
Yeah. Yes, the National Land Commission is involved, but see, whoever has interest in land is the body, the government department that has interest in that particular land has the obligation to inform the National Land Commission. Then, after informing them, the National Land Commission then confirms with that department whether they have the sufficient fund to compensate, as Daniel is saying, which is also provided under regulation, under the legal notice number 50. Let me see. If you read legal notice number 280, Land Regulation 2017, you will find out that those claims must be compensated first. So, if Machakos County has informed the National Lands Commission, now the Lands Commission will confirm or ask them whether they have enough money to compensate these people. And these people must also be notified, and they lodge claims. These claims must be heard. If they're successful, the compensation will take place and the government will acquire the land. If this compensation does not take place, then the county has to go back and look for that money to compensate them. That is, I think that is my understanding by reading that legal notice, but I stand guided.
Yeah, it's very much okay. I think you're right, 100%. I just think that it also matters who has the power to do this. The facts are saying is the county government of Machakos that is doing this. I don't think they have the powers to do this. So if there is ground to oppose or to fight this, I think we have to start from the fact that the county government doesn't seem to have powers to do this. I think this is the NLC, but you are right 100%.
Yeah, I want to agree with the both.
Thank you. I think I'm getting what you're saying in any way. Thank you.
He's saying that notice must be given by the NLC, even though yes, the county can have interest. There's another hand that was raised. Or we move to question 5. I see it. Our time is well spent.
I would like to. I raised my hand, Orina Absalom.
Go ahead.
I would like to add from where Barak has left it that the county government, it's the NLC that's supposed to proceed with this compulsory acquisition. And my take would be that the first thing they should do is to go for an inhibition from court to stop the process until the correct procedure for compulsory acquisition is followed from the NLC. I think that's what the question requires. That's my take. I don't know.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I think, yes, we've agreed with, yeah, that's okay. That's okay, Absalom. That's proper. Yeah, I think we've now clarified. Thank you so much also for, making that particular observation, which is very, very important. Question 5. You can just move up a little bit, Absalom. Anyone who wants to read it for us quickly?
I can read it quickly.
I can also save time.
Read.
Imani owns a piece of land in Kajiado County. The land parcel is registered as Kajiado Kaputei 243. Imani instructs you to act as an advocate and informs you that of late, she has been receiving uninvited guests to her premises who intend to view it, purporting that the property is on sale. Unfortunately, she has just noticed that her title deed for the same property is now missing. She intends to process a provisional title. A. Advise Imani on the immediate action you will take to protect her interest in the property before processing a provisional title. B. Explain the procedure you will follow in undertaking the requisite action in A above at the Kajiado County Land Registry. C. Imani has been approached by a neighbor with a request to hire part of the land parcel in question to hold a birthday celebration on Saturday from 8:00 a.m. to 5:00 p.m. Imani is agreeable with the request and ready to transact. Explain to Imani the nature of the envisaged transaction and the implication of the same on her ownership of property in question. Thank you.
Thanks. Let's start with C. Imani has been approached by a neighbor with a request to hire part of the land parcel in question to hold a birthday celebration on Saturday from 8 to 5 p.m. Imani is agreeable with the request and ready to transact. Explain to Imani the nature of the envisioned. What is the nature of the transaction? And the implications of the same on her. Yes. Gisore, is your hand up? Okay, the other person? Donna?
It is a license.
Implications?
License. Pardon?
Implications of the same on her ownership?
It does not transfer ownership to the neighbor, so she retains the ownership of the property.
Thing.
Or can it be a short-term lease?
Is it really a lease? They only want to use it for 1 day, and it's from 8 to 5. I think it's a license, because what they want is the right to use that property for that particular time. They don't want. I don't think they want exclusive possession. So I think a license will be proper.
Okay.
Yeah, the duration is a bit too tiny. I've never seen a lease for hours, or even a lease for days. At least a month. Okay, so it's a license. Her ownership will not move from himself or herself to this other person. I was just asking Donna if there are other things that she also knows about license. What does it give?
So license basically gives permission to the licensee to use the premises without having exclusive possession of it.
Okay. Anyone want to add something? Jackson?
Yes, I wanted to add that a license essentially gives a contract-based right, doesn't give a proprietary right.
Yes, and it also doesn't give exclusive possession. Yes, correct, Donna?
Yes.
Exclusive possession is from a lease. Explain the procedure you will follow in undertaking. So advise Imani on the immediate action you will take to protect her interest in the property before processing a provisional title. Anyone? What would you do in this instance?
Mr. Duor, my hand has been up, but
sorry.
Let me give it a try. I wanted to answer question C, but I share the same sentiments with Donna. And question A, I would lodge a question because this one, question will enable her to get informed if there is any transaction that is taking place on that land. So you will tell me whether I'm right, then I believe the answer we give to question A will assist us to now know what to do in question B. Yes.
Anyone who disagrees? Some we are all saying aye.
Then anyone who I was trying to look at the provision. I know there's a provision, but it has escaped me. So anybody who can lead me there, I will also appreciate.
Yeah, the provision the provision is talking about is section 71, the Land Act. But you can also approach it through inhibition.
Why?
Because this is you've realized you don't have your title, so you don't know where it is. So I think you're better protected when you have a court order inhibiting any registration or any dealing with the land. I think until you apply for cancellation of that inhibition. So I would feel that my client will be more protected if I have something so substantial like a court order inhibiting any dealings with the land, because I don't have the title. Or rather, my client has lost his title.
Jackson, your hand is up.
Yes, Odur, I'd also use an inhibition as the route to take. The reason I'd not use a caution is because if you read the parties that can lodge a caution, I don't think the owner of the property is one of the parties. So I think I'd use the inhibition route.
Anyone in the different opinion?
Is it a caveat?
No, I just want us to make a decision. Absalom, Amma, was that you?
All right, I would use the caution. Reason being is that I'll use a caution. The reason being is that it does not take a lot of time. So, like just because an inhibition, it needs another process from court and service of the same registrar. I think the caution would be the easiest and the most appropriate.
Persons who may lodge a caution, Section 71 LRA. A person who claims the right, whether contractual or otherwise, to obtain an interest in any land, lease, or charge capable of creation by an instrument registrable under the Act. A person who is entitled to a license, or a person who has made an application for bankruptcy order against the proprietor. So we don't have the proprietor there. And I think Pius or someone talked about that. Inhibition. It refers to a court order inhibiting registration of any dealing in land, lease, or charge for a particular time until the occurrence of a certain event or until further orders are made by the court. So if the proprietor cannot apply for a caution, this person is a proprietor. I don't think they'll be able to apply for this caution, even though maybe we're saying it's faster to do. But for inhibition, I can see there's no restriction on who can apply. And so I believe that they'll be able to apply. However, I'd like to leave this one to the floor. If you believe otherwise, if you don't agree with what I think, again, so long as you can support it, then I think you're good to go. But for the interest of time, I think we can move to the next question. Explain the procedure you will follow in undertaking the requisite action in A above at the Kajiado registry. 5 marks. If it's inhibition, this is the procedure. You can look at Regulation 79, Legal Notice 278 of 2017. An application is made to the registrar using Form LRA 66. The application is accompanied by the court order duly sealed, making specific reference to the affected land. Registration by the registrar in the appropriate part of the register is then done. If you've decided to go with caution, which I don't believe you should go with, this is the procedure. An application to the registrar to register the caution is made through Form LRA 67. The application is accompanied by a statutory declaration ascertaining the averments made and the averments made, and the registration of the caution by the registrar is done in the proprietary section of the register. Okay.
Excuse me, Duor.
Yes.
Could you kindly repeat the legal notice number?
278 of 2017.
Thank you.
Okay. The last question, please move down, Absalom. I don't want to take so much of your time.
We are the one taking so much of your time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Bernard, read for us question 6.
Okay. Question 6. Oh, question 6. Okay. Austin has seen adverts on a local television station of plots for sale near the fast emerging Konza City development area in Makueni, right? This is definitely a good place for investment, and therefore Austin attended a site visit last week. He chose one of the plots while at the site. He was quite excited and instantly paid a deposit of 200,000, leaving a balance of 600,000, which he plans to pay off in 6 months, in 6 monthly installments. Austin has come to your chambers and now seeks your advice on whether his interests are protected. Advise Austin on the importance of 3 preliminary issues that he has overlooked in paying the deposit. Part B, after Austin brought you on board and you properly advised him to ensure his interests are protected, the owner of the plot has now declined to complete the sale because another potential buyer has agreed to buy the plot in question for Kenya shillings 1.2 million. Advise Austin on remedies available to him under these circumstances.
Thank you. A very easy question, guys. Let's do this as quick as possible. Yes, Jackson Mungai.
It's an old hard, but I can still go on. So this question is testing on the aspect of due diligence. So one of my answers would be carrying out a search on the property. So this guy Austin did not carry out a search on the property. Then in that answer, you can talk about the the official search, then the unofficial search, and then the historical search. And also you have the other two, that is inquiries and requisitions.
There's an official search. I think it's official search, personal, historical.
Yeah, the personal one, yeah.
Then inquiries and requisition. Thank you. Someone else? What else did they not do?
Okay.
Allow me.
Yes, you are allowed.
Odhiambo, you can go.
Allow me to add that for me, this is what I think, that before you make payments, any payments in regard to purchase of land, then there's need for some agreement to be put in place, stating how payments will be made and where the deposit will be paid. So I think she also overlooked that aspect of drafting an agreement. Yeah,
there's no sale agreement. The Law of Contract Act, Section 33, and I believe Section 46 of the Land Act. Mary Ledama versus
Section
Ledama
44.
and others.
I think it's
Anything
section 44 and 38.
44 and 38.
Yeah, 44 of the Land Registration Act and 38 of the Land Act.
44 Land Registration Act, Land Act.
Yes, Oduor, kindly go on.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Section 38 and 44. Then we have Section 33 of the Law of Contract Act. We have Daudi Ledama versus Mary Christine and others. And I think we also have the Junction versus Silverstone. Whatever you decide to go with, yes. So we have two answers. We've talked about the searches, we've talked about requisition, we've talked about inquiries, we've talked about the sale agreement. Anything else that someone would like to add? Yes, Jackson.
Also the deposit, the aspect of the deposit being 10%. So here I see he paid around 200,000 and the purchase price is yeah, I think it does not add up to 10%.
Yeah, but there's freedom of contract, Jackson. Yeah, and the act doesn't say, the LSA condition of sale doesn't say shall, it says may, meaning it's not mandatory. Could be even be 50% or even 70%. But thank you so much for also making that observation. Anyone who wants to add anything else? Jackson, you understand, yeah?
Yeah, I'm guided on that. Thank you.
Welcome. In addition,
could we say he overlooked having an advocate present in that transaction?
Why? What is your rationale?
Well, if we're going to talk about the issue of overlooking the sale agreement, then I think in the same light, with regard to the requirement of the qualified persons who can come up or what is it called, prepare those documents, then the conveyance documents, then I think an advocate would be very important. So in this sale agreement, I feel like it was important to have an advocate on board, even with regard to some of the pre-contractual duties.
Yeah, I think, yeah, you can use that as another point, just to add more meat to your answer. I don't think it would be of any harm. In fact, even a valuation report would also serve him well before he paid that particular amount of money. Yes? Yes, the person who just spoke.
Excuse me, Duor.
Yes.
Okay, it's right. She can be right, but in land, the purchase of land does not necessarily require an advocate. Actually, parties can just draft their own agreement, and that one will be binding. Though she's right, though, but just for general knowledge, one does not need an advocate to purchase a land.
In fact, you don't even need a valuer. But
Yes.
if you are really careful, if you want to be very, very
Yes. For the extreme, then
yeah,
and to be on the safer side, then you need an advocate. But generally,
you can do without. Yes, but if you want to be careful,
yes.
the way she's saying, because I think her standpoint is she's being very careful here, so she thinks it would be proper. But yes, I also agree with.
And even the question will say that she has come to you as an advocate, so it's okay.
You can just add them as your last points, just to add me.
Yeah.
But she's okay. There's no question. B, after Austin brought you on board and you properly advised him to ensure his interests are protected, the owner of the plot has now declined to complete the sale because another potential buyer has agreed to buy the plot in question for 1.2 M. Advise Austin on the remedies available to him under the circumstances. Anyone? What are the remedies available under the sale agreement if it is repudiated, if it is breached? Anyone? What are the remedies available? The purchaser?
One, he can apply to court for return of the deposit and for damages, and also for specific performance. If he doesn't want if he wants to complete the transaction.
Yeah. But I think you have to be very careful in specific performance. Yeah, for reasons I think we discussed in this platform. Yes, you agree?
Yes. You see, after Austin brought you on board and you properly advised him to ensure his interests are protected, I think maybe now there is a contract in place. What do you think?
I know, but remember, specific performance is done in extreme circumstances.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there is also what Mr. Odera calls gazumping. I don't know whether it would apply here. That
what?
Gazumping.
What is that?
And gazundering.
Gazundering. So gazumping is where the vendor has the right to sell to the highest
bidder.
Yes, to the highest purchaser. Someone came with, if you had not completed and someone came with the highest amount, then they can increase the price and sell to the highest purchaser. But in this case, the way, yes. Now in this case, I think for me, I would apply for damages for breach, and if
rescission.
Yeah, there is a rescission, of course. Would you also apply for restitution?
Yeah, you can stroke it. I think it's
yeah, but under extreme circumstances, I would also apply for specific performance now that we have an agreement in place.
Okay.
If I don't want to get my deposit back.
Okay, but remember, specific performance, yeah. But thank you. You've said under extreme circumstances.
And maybe Daniel, just to add on specific performance, there is, I can't remember the specific place for the specific section, but I can't remember quickly. But the Law Society of Kenya Conditions of Sale also backs up the issue of specific performance, especially in the event that the amount that has been paid is so substantial that failure to complete the process will be detrimental to the buyer, so that if I've given you 1 million and the transaction is 1.2, I mean it's only good for me to clear the 200,000. Yeah, for me to clear the 200,000 so that I can get the property, and that's why I think specific performance is the best punishment for people who like gazumping. Thank you. Because of the the predatory nature of that transaction.
Okay. So I want to believe that we've discussed this paper absolutely correctly. Anyone with a problem, anyone with a question, please, I can sort it out now in the next 5 minutes. Anyone? And again, if I went too fast, if I was not doing things properly, again, we can just make those corrections right now, since it's our first discussion. So that also, as I talk to my team, I tell them of things that, maybe you guys would like us to improve on, or things that we can work on together. But again, one thing that I'd like to insist on is that, guys, let's do the paper together. You'll learn more. You'll get to learn more if we are doing these papers together. But if you're getting answers, you won't learn as much. So let's do these papers together. Let us all contribute. Let us not just have Bernard, Bias, Donna, and let's have more people, Jackson. Let's have more and more, Absalom. Let's have more and more people contributing, more and more and more and more. Award and the rest. Let's have everyone. It would be nice to have a discussion with all of us. And do not worry about anything. Man, when those results come, they're yours. You won't see your group's name there. It is yours. It is yours alone, not with anyone else. So just, open your mouth, speak. Let's learn also from you. We could learn a thing or two from you. So it would be really nice to have all of you guys just speak, and it will be good. Any questions?
Excuse me, Oduor.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, mine is to thank you for finding time to guide us on this revision. And I think maybe today we have taken long because it was the first day. We had to recap, look at the preliminary issues, where we left and where we start from. But we appreciate. And just a suggestion going forward, we can actually split time just the way you did it during the mock orals, so that we have a session for recap and questions. Then we split time for each question for revision, and then at the end we see the amount of time remaining, then we can address the issues arising. That is just my suggestion going forward, but you are really doing a good job, and may you be blessed. Thank you, and have a good night.
Thanks, sir. Well noted. We'll improve on that. No questions? Bernard, no hands are up, yes?
My hand is up.
There's a hand up.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry for taking you back on the last question that we've handled. I kind of got lost. Does it matter that there was no agreement of sale in place in determining the remedies that are available to this guy?
The first paragraph, the first line, after Austin brought you on board and you properly advised him to ensure his interests are protected. So after he brought you on board and you properly advised him to ensure his interests are protected, the owner of the plot has now declined to complete the sale because another potential buyer has agreed to buy the plot. Okay. So I think they're saying you've probably advised him. Again, someone would assume that you've advised him, but there's no sale agreement. Oh.
That's what I'm wondering, because maybe when you told him what he would have done, I don't know whether we are then to assume that then he went back and drew a sale agreement and recognized the deposit amount that is paid. Is that the assumption that you're supposed to make?
This is the assumption that we are making. Okay. After Austin brought you on board, meaning now you've taken over this matter, okay, and you properly advised him to ensure his interests are protected. I want to assume that since you're on board and you've advised him, his interests are now protected. The owner of the plot has now declined to complete. I don't know. I don't know. My interpretation would be that now we have a sale agreement and his interests are protected. But again, I think someone would also interpret this that you've advised him, but maybe, we don't have anything in writing yet.
So my question then would be, would it change if are the remedies any different where there is no sale agreement in place? So if it was clear that there is no sale agreement in place, and then we are again asked to give the remedies available to this person, what remedies would we have?
So then you see what the Law of Contract Act says is that you cannot claim that there's a contract as to land if there's nothing in writing, but that is a contract as to
Yes.
land. So someone would argue that what if you go to court and you're not talking about contract as to land? You're just saying that you gave this guy your money and you want your money back. So then you are depending on verbal contract, just that you're not bringing in the fact that it is a land contract. However, you gave them your money based on something and they've not given you back the money. So I think since you've given them your money, verbally, there's a contract, you gave them their money, they're supposed to do something else which they have not done. I think you'd still obtain your right to rescission. They'd still have to give you back your money anyway. However, damages would be a problem because if there's no if we don't have anything in writing, then you cannot claim that you have damages because they agreed to sell for you land. But I think rescission and restitution would apply. You'd get back your money.
All
But
right.
under verbal contract, not under written contract for land. You
This is
really have
thank you.
Yeah, you really have to deviate from land because there's no contract for land, but there's a verbal contract where money was given, and if that money has not served the purpose that it was given, then I mean you have the right to property. They should just it's only fair that they give you back your money.
I see. Thank you very much.
May I intervene?
Yes.
But thank you so much for making that observation. I think, yeah.
Sorry about that for barging in. Just wondering, all contracts in relation to land must be written. You've just advised him properly. Wouldn't that mean that you will advise him to go and regularize through a written contract? I mean, just wondering.
I know, but again, if you look at that sentence, I mean, someone would also argue that you've advised him, but the statement, what is written there, they're not saying that he has implemented. They're only saying that you've advised him. They're not saying that you've advised him and now his rights are protected. They're saying you've advised him to ensure his interests are protected. So I think that's where she's coming from. But I think for me, I'd like to assume that his rights are now protected and then now we have a contract. Jackson, you want to say something?
I think the assessment to that question would be two-way, and both of you are correct. But I had a different question. It's a quick one on question one, whereby this guy was selling property that they had charged it to the bank. So I wanted you to clarify whether the discharge should be a plain discharge, that is LRE 58, or it should be a partial discharge, that is LRE 59. And thank you for the session. It has been very interactive.
Okay, so which one are we dealing with here?
This one for question one, the one where the tenure is leasehold, annual land rate is 2,000, revisable, size of property is 0.05. Whereby he wanted to sell it to.
No, I know.
Maria.
Is it,
yeah.
The type, is it a flat? Is it a subdivided land? Is it?
It's a flat.
Yeah. So if it's a flat, one thing that we have to be careful with is this is registered under the old act. Is right. The what? It's called what? Registered Lands Act. So there or then we had subdivided titles. Yeah. We didn't have sectional titles. The reason as why I'm saying this, Jack, the person who has asked the question, I can't see your name, is because it's only where we have subdivided titles. I mean, it's only where we have sectional titles or subdivided titles that depend on a mother title that we have a partial discharge, meaning we have a mother title, but we are not discharging all of it. We're only discharging part of it. But from that question, I have not seen them clarifying exactly whether this was a subdivided title that is dependent on a mother title. So personally, I'd go with the discharge for that particular title. Or I'd go with okay, get where you're coming from. It's a flat, so probably there's I want to believe it. Yes, I'd go with the subdivide I'd go with what? A partial discharge, because we are not discharging the whole land, because there are also other properties below it. A partial discharge, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because I want to believe there's a mother title, then we have, you know, different, we have different flats on it. So we are only discharging one flat, yes, correct? Or we're discharging all? But let me go back to the question. Are we discharging all the titles, all the flats? Yeah, please confirm. The bank has financed the whole flat, yes?
Yes, yes, the whole, yes,
Then
the whole block of 20 flats.
okay, then it's an ini. It's the normal one. It's the normal one, the full discharge, the normal discharge. You get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I understand you.
If it's only one, then it is partial, because we're not discharging the whole thing. But if it is the whole thing, as is here, we're discharging everything. So then it's not partial. Partial is where we are only discharging a part of it. But here we are discharging the whole thing. So we can't talk about partial. You get?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, guys, do we have any other questions? Okay, so we have no other questions. Who wants to close for us the first session with a word of prayer? Okay, let me pray. Our Father art in heaven, we thank you so much for our session today. We thank you so much for being with us. We thank you so much for leading us. We thank you so much for the information that we've gotten and received today. We thank you so much for everything that we've learned today. As we go to rest, may you be with us, may you cover us, may we sleep well in the mighty name of Jesus. Whatever we've learned today, may it help us, may it improve our minds, may it help us to prepare better and better for conveyancing. We thank you even for the future discussions that we'll have. May you take over them. We worship you, and it is in your mighty name that we pray and believe. Amen. Okay, guys.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
Thank
see
you.
you.
Good night.
Good night, and thank you so much, Daniel.
All right.